Here we go, Thursday night, guys. It's going to be a great show. Very excited. For more reasons than one, too, guys. Very excited. We have an outstanding panel tonight, just as you guys can take a look right there. Some great special guests with us this evening. Guys, real quick, you guys are my audio engineers. Please take a second to let me know how the sound is. We were doing a little sound test behind the scenes, and I may either be coming in way too loud right now, or I'm going to be not loud enough. Just let me know how it is. I can change it on the fly. That being said, I want to say thanks to everybody. We're going to have a great show. Look at that outstanding description down there. That's going to give you a little idea of what's going on. I take a little bit of time to do that. I do. I take a little bit of time to do that. I like you guys to know what you're in store for. Right above that, you guys will see a join button, the like button, the subscribe button. Really can't say thank you guys enough. Everyone's saying it sounds good. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Captain Chats. Really appreciate it. Excellent sound from Hero Down Under, guys. Great to have you all here. Please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Your name comes up in lights. So it's going to be a great show for you guys tonight. That being said, if you'll consider hitting that join button, I do want to say, we have over 100 members, on the channel right now. And a lot of people, I actually tried to get a scroller to put everybody's name on there. And I did it last minute, so I couldn't get, for some reason, it's got like a limitation on OBS Streamlabs. It's maybe 500 characters, so I couldn't get everybody on there. So I said, you know what? I'm going to call everybody out. I'm going to do this in the most efficient way because I want to say thank you to each one of you. And I do want to say a special thanks also to MASH and Esprit Lotus as well. Those two definitely donating and giving out at least 10 to 20 memberships a week. So I just can't say thank you enough to those guys. Without further ado, we game together. We talk behind the scenes. Lots of gaming talk with each of these Mooch Maniac family members. That being said, shout out and thank you to the great JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, Truity, Alfonso Carter, Brap, who's going to be joining us hopefully the second hour, Damien, the great Jimmy Harrison, who's here, Andy Hart, Red Hood 420, who just wrote me and said, Mooch, I'll be there at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So looking forward to talking to Red again. Ham Solo 05, Rob Jones, Night Ripper 7, Toto Dope, Thumbs, JC 2013, he's right there, I see him. Lord Metroid, Rabbit Got the Gun, Fastbender, Archwar, Angel, Biggity 08, Slow-Mo backs up. By the way, shout out to Slow-Mo and the Great Gaming Forte. We're doing DPS podcast tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Go over and check them out as soon as CrossFire is done. It's a great show. Henry Heck, Silent Merc, Ocelot, J-Roll 49, Anthony Dixon, Brieros, Neil S., Selene Chilan. Shout out to Dawn, Ice Queen Gaming. Our major Mooch Maniacs, Neil Augusto, Jay Twigs. We got some new names in here, by the way, too. They're fantastic. Shadow 200 Strong, Homie Juan Kenobi, I love it. J Pro, Horatio Ward, Gino DeMarco. Gino, if you have a pizza place, let us know where it is. Bat Skeleton, Edward B, Steady Flow, FTW, Arula Cortez, Chris Coleman, Amon, Colin, Tokyo, I think it's Maestro. Outstanding. Love the Maestro. Jeff B Gaming, Kana 787, Freddy 214, Hero Down Under, who's here, Texas Lean, True Virgil, Paco King, Mary Wilcox, Dan Mockler, I think I'm saying that right, Sweet Willie, Lowcut, Craig the Tech Guy, shout out to Craig who was on the show last week, Dr. Martin Van Nostrand, outstanding name, Seinfeld reference for you guys that don't know, Toolman 55, God Emperor Sofa King, who was just going back and forth with the Mooch before the show started, T-Rock 40, The Ruum, The Elemental Hero, Lucci Sky, Rash, Brian Cutler, Mad Joe, Giancarlos Sanchez, Ms. Phantom, El Nini, Scott Dove, Ryan Landis, Blake T, Kiri 86, C Fresh 2180, the great Jeff Grubb, everybody, J Jab, Rob 64, Chad Stud, Lotus Esprit again, shout out to Lotus Esprit and Mash, Josh Ares, Wizard 57, Kritopsy, Sweet Baby, Rick L, Moose 10, Steel, Composite Smurf, Capone, you better be a permanent Mooch Maniac family member when this is all said and done after that gift is done. The great Capone's always in the chat. Detective Seeds, who's going to be joining us next week. PS Rewind, Cloud Strife, Abdul Alsfari, Just Wait, Wara Wana, Corey Massey, Brian East, Thrifty, PS Gamer, I see him out there in the chat, CR Bruin, shout out to MASH, Ekim, Bitrate, RPG88, who's always here every week, and he's a part of the Twitch twitch.tv, Mooch TV streams. He's always there. Shout out to RPG. 4-star General, Truth Serum, your boy Roy, Scolari Brothers, DC Gaming, Miko, Jay Bari, and Gaming with Persona, who had an outstanding interview last week. You guys are over there checking it out. What's Up PlayStation, Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's how I start my Saturday. That's how I recommend you guys start yours. Tactical Gamer, Danelle Brown, That Guy Spinny, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs, the Wise Old Gamer, Raji, Domino Zero, and our Forever Mooch Maniacs. Shout out to the great Longshot 316 and the great Optimus Code. Guys, that being said, we have an outstanding panel for you. I'm very, very excited. I want to say thanks again to everyone. Look at all those green names in the chat. It's fantastic. You're all part of the family. You all have rooms in the house. It's fantastic. That being said, let me get to this outstanding panel. You know, known him for a very long time. It's very difficult to get him on the show. And I don't know how long he'll stay tonight. You never know. You don't know. But I can't wait to hear what he's got to say, and I love his takes in gaming. The great Worry Wart Gamer's back with us. Worry, how you doing tonight?
Good. I gotta go. Sorry.
All right. We'll see you, we'll see you later.
Thank you, Cleveland.
Great to have you,
Cleveland. Good night.
Great to have you, Worry. I appreciate you being here,
Thanks
buddy.
for having me.
The great, you guys know him. He's the accountant from down under. The great David Faulkner is back with us tonight. And I thought tonight would be a great night to have David on. A lot of talk of what's going on. An acquisition, not in the gaming world, but we'll talk a little bit how stocks have kind of rose for Sony on a few different subjects that have gone hot as of late. And we'll also talk a little bit about what's going on with Xbox with him. The great David Faulkner. David, how you doing tonight?
Hey, yeah, no, doing well. We made it to Friday. Happy days. And, yeah, a few bits and pieces going on. Bit of detail there. We'll try not to bore everyone with my TED Talk later.
It's great to have you. Just so everybody knows, it is Friday for David. It's 11 o'clock in the morning for David over there in Australia. The great David Faulkner. Great to have him here. David, thanks for being here. I know it's the middle of the day, so I do appreciate that. Guys, listen, before the show was going, the guys were like, hey, listen, your microphone's a little low. And I was trying to figure it out. I thought maybe you guys wouldn't be able to hear me. And then I found out, oh, that's right. I got the mag on tonight. So I have the night off. So the great middle-aged game guy is with us tonight, and I can't wait to talk the industry with him. Mag, how the hell you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for the invite, as always. And you know what? It's going to be a great show. We got great things to talk about. It's an exciting week. I know it's like usually a slump at this time of year, but you know what? We always find something to talk about. And tonight is no exception because news is flying in. So let's get into the show.
Absolutely, Megan. As you said, the news is plentiful this evening. Speaking of that, the only guy that may play Call of Duty more than me, you guys know him. It's the great Wilmy Hood. He's back on the show. He says, Mooch, you know, it's been a while. When do you think I can get back on CrossFire? I'm like, how about right now? The great Wilmy Hood is back. Wilmy, welcome back to the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
It's good to be back, and I do play a little more than you. Out of 52 weapons,
yes, you
I think I have 48 of them platinum now.
Woo!
So, yeah, I've got like 78 days.
You got to show more of those guns off, buddy, because honestly, I
may have a little problem, but it's okay.
You're maxed out on the level, which is unbelievable. I'm halfway there, and you're maxed out. That is unbelievable. The people who stream that game for a living on Twitch and YouTube they're in the 500s. You're in the 600s. It's unbelievable.
I did that within 4 days of Season 3.
My lord, my lord. The great Wilmy Hood, everybody. We're going to be talking games with him as well. And this is a special treat, guys. You guys know him as Kami. Kami does his thing on social media. He really, really kind of takes the world by storm. He does all the research for us, so we don't have to do it. The great, and I'm going to give him the plug right here. It's at Okami13_. You guys know him over on Twitter. And if you're not, you really should be following him. Kami, welcome to Crossfire for the first time, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Not too bad. How's it going, guys? Excited to be here. I know we've tried once or twice, so
yes,
we finally made it happen.
Well, listen, Kami, you know what I need you to do is you need to be our reference. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. You have a lot of information that you can add, and it is Crossfire, Kami, so just chime in whenever you want. You don't have to wait to be called on. I do like to put people on the hot seat. I'm going to put Mag on the hot seat first here because he says to me, Mooch, listen, I got to come on tonight. I got a lot of things to say. Real quick shout out to the great Matty Beast out there. I see Matty who's here with us. He's been listening to the Mooch for almost 10 years. Shout out to Matty. Great to see a lot of these guys here in the chat. Guys, please do hit the like button. Please tweet it out. Hit the subscribe button if you're just stopping by. But Mag, and it says here, now somebody in the audience is saying Mag's a bit too loud. I I don't know if maybe they
That's
mean,
just Mag.
they may
That's
just
just
mean
me,
me. I don't know. Mag, either way, I'm going to mention the first topic, but I don't want to derail what you want to talk about. So the first topic I want to talk about is the Xbox Showcase on June 9th. And the biggest thing about it is, not saying it's the hottest topic of the week, but I think it's a question that runs parallel, Meg, and that is, what can we expect to see, and how will Xbox handle their exclusivity moving forward as we approach the showcase, right? I mean, come on, we got to talk about it.
Isn't that a question? That's going to be a situation because, and we said this back in January when some of us, who, by the way, have not apologized and have not wavered and have not redacted any of our statements as to what we've said in January. That's still going to happen. It's just a matter of when. These things take time. But anyways, when those things all come to fruition, and they will, the problem is, and we talked about this back in January, and actually I believe I talked about it right here on CrossFire, we talked about how there's always going to be an asterisk next to every announcement moving forward.
Yes.
So when it comes to an announcement, we're going to announce this, or we're doing that, or we're going to do this, and we're doing the Gears collection, and this and that, whatever, right? And when you say all these things, again, the asterisk is going to show up. Now, it doesn't affect me in any which way or form. I don't really care. I am here as a gamer, and I'm here to consume great product. I don't care where it is. If it happens to be on Xbox, then I'll play there. If it's on PlayStation, I'm playing it there. Nintendo, But anyways, the point is that sorry, but like it just that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so therefore, for me, it doesn't affect me in any which way or form, and it shouldn't really affect anybody else. However, this showcase is going to be an interesting one because now you're going to have basically 3 showcases, maybe 4 if you include not just Activision, but you're going to talk about how they're going to do what is clearly going to be a Call of Duty expose, so to speak, right? As to what the new game is and everything else. That is definitely happening. That's happening, what? Is it right after the Xbox Showcase?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken? Okay. So that already moves that. We already know where that's going. That's going to be, and I tell you right now, unless it's on Game Pass, it's still going to be more popular. And I still think even with Game Pass, it's still going to be more popular on PlayStation, just because more people play there, PC as well. So that's it is what it is. As for what to expect, I would expect the usual suspects. You're going to have the Starfield DLC. You're going to have a Gears 6, Jesus Christ, a Gears 6 reveal. But that's not going to be coming out anytime soon. I would think towards the end of the generation. Also, the games that are coming out this year. Again, you've got Indiana Jones. What the hell else is coming out this year? Anybody remember offhand?
Avowed.
Oh, Avowed. That was the other one. I always forget Avowed. Just because it's kind of left the zeitgeist of my mind, Avowed. Mooch, I'm just like you, dude. The more they show it, the less I want to play it.
The less I want to play it. I don't understand. I was very excited.
I was excited, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm going, "What the hell is this?" And it just, the more they show, the less I'm interested. But anyways, and then obviously by that time, Hellblade 2 will already have been in the wild for a couple of weeks, right? So what I'm thinking is going to happen here is they're going to start talking about some other stuff, which may be a little more controversial. I think the more controversial things they're going to hold off and keep those outside of the game showcase because I don't think they want to have that showcase sort of tarnished, so to speak. I hate to use that word, but I think that's what's going to happen. Like, for example, when they talk about the Gears, I think a Gears of War collection may be announced at that show, right? If they do that, they're not going to talk about it going to PlayStation.
No.
But it is 100% going to PlayStation. Look for a partnership with Playtonic. That's something that I did hear that could be a situation. But like I said, I don't think they're going to talk about any of the things that are going to go to PlayStation. I saw the tweet from what's her name there, from Sarah Bond, where it had like the blue heart and the green heart together.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means. I mean, I know these guys, speak in riddles all the time, and they're always trying to drop hints.
It's
and
annoying.
Stuff, but I'm not really sure they're going to do that at an Xbox showcase.
No.
Does that make sense to you, Mooch? I don't think it does.
No, they're calling it the Xbox
You're going to piss off all the 20 million hardcore that you got,
right?
Because I figured, okay, let's say 25 million. Let's go with 25 million hardcore. The other 10 to 15 million that they tend to attract generally is because of price, right? Like a Series S being on sale, whatever else. You're going to piss off 25 million hardcore by showing these games going on PlayStation.
No.
That's not going to happen at the showcase. They're going to keep it, within the community, within their ecosystem, whatever, blah, blah. And I think those announcements are going to come later on down the road. Could be announced by Sony for all we know.
Meg, you make a great point there. And I just want to ask, like, Wilmy, I know that your stance has been pretty neutral as far as like, gaming and this and that, as far as you just play your games and you enjoy them. But, Willie, you heard what Mag just said. I do agree with him. I don't think you're going to see anything about PlayStation on the Xbox Showcase. But my question I'll ask you is how will they handle things like exclusivity when they were saying, console exclusive, or this is going to be an exclusive? Will we hear, maybe they'll kind of take that out of their presentation where we won't see that? Also, will Game Pass be as prevalent or as in your face as it was previously? There's also reports out there saying that they may start to not step away. Like, Game Pass is not going away, but they may not emphasize it as much because clearly they're enjoying reaping the benefits of selling their games on other platforms.
I kind of agree with Mag because the bottom line is Microsoft, dude, likes to take over the entire market. Look at PC. They're a software developer. They always have been. And the more places they can put those games, the more money they make, and they know that. And I also agree with Mag. They're not going to say it during a showcase. They're not going to come out and say it because they don't want people pissed off.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is money talks. And that's just that's it. They're going to go where the money is, and if they can sell it on another platform, they're going to do that. They've already admitted they lost the console war years ago. The 360 was the peak. And I think we can all pretty much agree on that one.
Yeah. Now,
but as of right now, I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of pissed off with both.
Why is that?
Because I want games that are different, but I keep getting carbon copies of the same bullshit over and over and over. And I just want to see games that are completely different. I want to see some new IPs from Sony and Xbox. And I'm getting kind of tired of playing on my PC when I own all these consoles.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's a bad look either way you go about it. But I really do agree with Mag there.
Yeah, no,
I'm having the exact opposite experience, to be honest with you. I've been playing on Xbox since the original Xbox 360 was the peak. But I'm having a much more console-centric experience that I'm used to having over the years on PlayStation 5 right now, with games like Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and some of the indie titles. So I'm not seeing any of that on Xbox, but the only thing that I do feel from Xbox is that anything that they do, it's going to wind up somewhere else anyway. I mean, you take a look at Sea of Thieves, right? Everybody's talking about the 88 rating for Sea of Thieves on PlayStation 5, and I'm seeing people saying, it was completely picked apart when it launched on Xbox. It took 6 years to develop Sea of Thieves, and they had 6 enemy types at launch. That's why it got such terrible reviews. So when you want to sell a product for $70, you're going to get the feature complete version, so you might as well wait and get it on PlayStation to begin with. So as far as this show coming up, I feel like every time something happens when it comes to Xbox and you're unsure about what the hell they're doing, they say, but in a couple of weeks there'll be a show. And that's supposed to make you feel, what? I don't know. What is the show going to be about? Call of Duty old titles on Game Pass. Okay, great. How many people are subscribed to Game Pass on console? We know consoles aren't selling. So right there, you've got a base of consumers that isn't growing. So then you pivot to PC. How many Game Pass subscribers do we have? They announced, 34? After they added in the 12 million from console on Xbox Live?
Yeah.
So again, where is this growth coming from for Microsoft? They talked about pivoting to PC for more gamers, more growth. That's going to add more money, the feedback loop back to the console. You're going to get more games. And what happened after they pivoted to PC years later? What are they doing? They're pivoting back to the console space and putting games on a console that's successful, PlayStation. So I don't know, why people are confused. I think they're a third-party publisher. I think they'll be a good third-party publisher with all the studios that they own.
Yeah.
And they're just not a hardware company. I don't know what hardware has Microsoft created that people have loved. There really isn't anything. I mean, their Surface is still around, right? But I mean, that's not like selling like crazy. They're an OS company. They're a software company. That's it. People don't want Xboxes. I don't know why that is. I like my Xbox, but people overwhelmingly do not choose Xbox. They choose PlayStation, or they choose whatever Nintendo's doing. For whatever reason, I don't know, but it's not a mystery at this point. They're not going to sell hardware. It's even more baffling that the rumor is that they're spending even more money to create 2 different versions of a hardware next generation. Who's buying that? Yeah, I don't understand it.
That latter part there that you just mentioned in new hardware being announced, and I understand that they may be going handheld, but that market is already kind of saturated. And not only that, those numbers are not wickedly impressive either, right? I don't know. And maybe I'll go to Kami on this. Kami, what do you think, Kami, when you hear what we're saying here? And I know you don't typically get into a lot of these conversations, but they are interesting. And I know that you have all the data in front of you, Kami. So when you hear this, like, it is surprising to hear that they do have plans in the near future to come out with a new technological leap, is what they're saying, and it may be a handheld. I don't understand why they would do that when seemingly this generation they're actually doing worse than the Xbox One generation, which we thought was not going to be possible in 2020 with the promotion and the push that Xbox had going into this generation.
So I definitely think we're going to get a lot more multi-platform games from Xbox. I don't think, maybe not all of their first-party games will go multi-plat, but we're definitely getting more. Again, I don't know if it's going to be at the showcase, like you said, but at some point, we're going to get more. As far as hardware, I don't know. I think Xbox's endgame is just to have everyone playing on the cloud. So I don't know if... I'm really interested to see what this new console is going to be as far as the next-gen console, like the big technical leap. Is it going to just be another traditional console? Is it going to be more, cloud-based or software-based?
Yeah.
I'm very curious. And then, as far as the handheld, I'm down for Xbox handheld. I don't know if the hardware, like you said, I don't know if the audience is really there to justify a handheld, especially with, the amount of devices that we have nowadays. But yeah, I'll be very interested to see what happens at the showcase.
Oh, absolutely. Shout out to the great Brap who's joining us as well. Great to have Brap here. That's an expected surprise. I was hoping for 8 o'clock, but I'll take Brap at 7:30 anytime.
Well, Mooch, I only
ahead.
have a couple minutes because I am solo. So
Yes.
I'm going to. I just want to say something real quick, and then I'm going to leave and come back. But I wanted to chime in. I'm listening to shows. I'm trying to get the kids down to bed. But yeah, it's funny. Like my 10-year-old heard, I think, Worry say people don't want Xbox, and he's like, yeah, he's like most of my friends have PlayStation, Nintendo. So it's kind of funny to hear him say that.
The audience, I love it. The audience, great.
Yeah, but he's not wrong. Like a lot of his friends, most of them have Nintendo. Like that's a foregone conclusion. But a lot of them also have PlayStation right now too, which is kind of interesting. But anyhow, that's anecdotal. I'm not going to say that's across the board for everyone. I want to say something that Mag said a few minutes ago, and it's that like Microsoft doesn't want to piss people off if by maybe teasing that these games are going to go to PlayStation. I think we're past that point.
No, I'm just saying during the showcase.
Oh yeah, well, I think they will do in the showcase. That's where I was going with
you
this.
Think
like,
so? I just
think
figured it'd be too much controversy.
Yeah, I think they're past that point.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, like you look at Satya. Satya's already on there bragging about the having 7 games in the top 25 to investors.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's saying we're gonna continue bringing games where the gamers are. I don't know how much more clear Xbox or Microsoft can get. I mean, like the look, just read the tea leaves. I mean, everything's right there in front of us. I mean, it's obvious that they are pivoting. Heard Worry say something about third-party publisher. I think they're already a third-party publisher that happens to have hardware. I think they'll continue making hardware, at least next generation, because it's going to be more of a boutique type of product. It's going to be a product that is catering to a niche audience. There's nothing wrong with that if that's something they want to do. But I think it's look. This is also a showcase. I think potentially for PlayStation gamers and Nintendo gamers, where look, they're like these games could be coming to your platform, and I think it was Wilmy said they're in the business of making money. Yeah, they are in the business of making money because they weren't making enough money selling software on the Xbox hardware.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean I know people are like, oh, it's not true, Brap. But if you go back, if you look at what I say, their revenue stream has been very linear. If you look at the amount of money they spent on acquisitions, they basically spent, like, let's just include Activision and Bethesda, about 70, I'm sorry, more than 70, $80 billion.
Close to 80.
Yeah, close to 80. And you might correct me on the math here, Falky, but they spent close to $80 billion to get back to where they were like pre-2017 in terms of revenue, where they didn't have as many, where they didn't own these massive publishers or have as many studios. And that's not really, I mean, that's basically spending money to get back to where you were when you had less. And that isn't going to be, I don't think they think that's sustainable for them. And I think this is the reason why, when you couple in the fact that, look, declining hardware, you saw it, Falky, minus 30% hardware revenue growth. Amy Hood saying, look, we anticipate that we're going to see negative revenue growth in hardware even next quarter. So if you can't sell hardware, you can't sell software in the console space. And
now, one thing nobody's considering, though. Now, what if Microsoft decides to pull on Amazon?
In which fashion? How? Wilmy?
Now, you know what Amazon does, right? They invite all these companies to come in, sell their products, and then they keep jacking the prices up. Eventually, that company gets in trouble financially. What does Amazon do? They come out with a hand and says, well, we'll help you, and they buy that company out. Now, I'm not saying this could happen, but everybody says Microsoft tends to look further ahead sometimes than they should. What happens, say, Saudi is sitting back going, well, a lot of these PlayStation games aren't selling like they want them to sell either. And that keeps happening. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of games that just don't sell their target, and they spend massive amounts of money to make these games. These games are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them, to create now. And Microsoft comes in and goes, well, we'll loan you some money, or we'll invest in you here, or we'll invest some money there. I mean, has anybody thought about that angle?
Well, Wilby, actually, I don't disagree with where you're going with this, because during the acquisition of ABK, we talked about this on BRAP. We said one of the concerns we had is Microsoft consolidating the game industry and kind of doing, like, Amazon is if there's a economic theory called choke point capitalism. We talked about this on BRAP, that they want to create a choke point like Amazon has. Amazon has basically pitted the consumer and the suppliers, and like we see with Amazon, you go to Amazon, they often will have like their third party vendors on there, but then they'll create like the Amazon version of that and sell it cheaper, or they'll create a scenario where they'll push their products up in the algorithm, so when you're looking for things, the Amazon products, or if you're a supplier, you pay more to get more visibility. And actually, Amazon's being investigated, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Falky, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe Amazon, the EU is looking into that. But to Willie's point, like, I don't think that's totally far-fetched that they want to create a scenario where they're the
because
choke
they've
point.
done
Like,
it.
Everything flows to them.
Microsoft's done it in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
absolutely.
Everything flows to them. And Sarah Bond, if you go back and listen to what she said 2 years ago, they want to create not just they don't want everything just to flow through them from a consumer perspective. They want everything to flow through them from a B2B perspective, and that's like what we said. That's their business model. So,
well, now a company does not have to want to be sold, because shareholders can actually force a sale, and they can do a hostile takeover.
So I like where you just went with that, Wilmy, where you said the stockholders, the investors. Like my point being here is that we've had a lot of guests on the show in the past few years, and they're like, Microsoft has enough money to just have a lost leader. We all know that, right? The lost leader in every store. Maybe it's like milk in our grocery stores. That's why they put it in the back corner. It's like, we'll lose some money on that, but everyone's going to walk through the entire store to get to. They can afford to do that. Okay, fine. They can do that with things like Game Pass, and they can do that with their consoles. But at the end of the day, that's I always say this on the show. Even wealthy people hate more than anything. They hate losing money. So at the end of the day, yes, they can hemorrhage money longer than most people, pretty much anybody in the gaming space, but they don't want to. They do not want to. And I do think, and I can't remember who said it on the panel, and David, I'll go to you on this one, because I really think when it gets into the finances, you do have Satya saying he's already bragging that he's got 7 games that he now is the owner of on the PlayStation storefront. I mean, a lot of people are still in kind of denial about this. They don't, they're like, no, Xbox isn't going third party. But I mean, we've heard a lot of people say it in the industry now they're saying it quietly. They're not making a big fuss about it. But it's almost like reading the tea leaves here. Is this true, David? Is this what we're kind of walking into? Because at the end of the day, they can hemorrhage money, but they don't want to.
Well, the telling point of all of it is who's saying it. It's not coming from Phil, and it's not coming necessarily from Sarah and the rest of the Xbox leadership. It's coming from Microsoft leadership. And it's been well documented that there's been some blow-ups and dust-ups in the boardroom at VP level. Thatcher and co aren't happy with the performance of that division. And you can see from their financial reports, they're going backwards in a real rate of knots, even after spending $80 billion in investments and all the rest of it. So the other thing to consider is market impacts, oversaturation. You look at how many new startups and smaller indie studios are coming in and saturating the market with games that are good. They don't have to be a AAA game, and got it on the list of things to talk about later. 70, 80, 100 hour plus games, or do we want that, or do we want shorter games? So it's such a broad mix of factors in that part alone. Then you move on to what products are actually coming out that are competing against each other and people prioritizing their purchase. You're talking about the loss leader stuff before. They stick the milk and all the essentials right at the back of the supermarket because they want people to walk past all this other stuff to try and sell it.
That's right.
Most people are conditioned now because they don't have the money to just go straight past it, or they don't go to the supermarket at all. They go to the smaller shop, which is competitively priced because they don't have that temptation. You see it in buying habits all over the world at the moment in most of the OECD countries. Smaller, more independent, more specific shops that are price competitive are actually beating the supermarkets to a pulp because they're just offering the bare essentials of what people want. You translate that into what does the gaming market look like at the moment, and Mag and Wilmy were talking about it earlier. They want to see this from Xbox, and they want to see that in terms of gaming, and they're fair enough requests. But if people are just focused on what the big guys are doing, they're going to miss out on a plethora of great games coming from smaller areas because they can do it in a much more cost-effective manner.
Yes.
So if the competition is not around 1 versus 2 versus 3 being red versus blue versus green, the competition then becomes a grassroots level of what a person can afford to buy one game this month. Are they going to spend their money on one big AAA game, or are they going to look for value and possibly buy 4 or 5 AA or indie style games that give them what they want in that experience? That's the challenge. And then you look at the Gen Z level where they're at the moment, the data is saying that they're not buying consoles en masse what the previous generations did. Mm-hmm. They're more into mobile gaming and gaming on the go and all the rest of it. But again, they're at the lower end of the demographics for age engaging in gaming.
Yeah. But
Gen Z tend to not engage in entertainment stuff much at all. They're moving away from being entertained by media and grifting rather back to going outside and catching up with friends and finding things to do that don't cost money.
Yeah.
To maintain. So there's a huge amount of different factors at play here, which means that the growth rate is not, to say the growth rate is 0 doesn't mean that the market is contracting. It's just not growing at the rate that people expect. So they've got to find other ways of growing that revenue. If you've got to take it off your box and put it elsewhere, then so be it.
David,
Xbox is going to benefit from having games being sold on PlayStation because it generates them more revenue. PlayStation's making a benefit from putting games on PC and selling them there. People might not like it, but suck it up. They're businesses. If they don't make money, they don't exist.
David, can I make a counter?
Exactly.
Can I make a counter real quick to the Gen Z study real quick? So the one thing that happens regardless is we all get older. Right, that's just a matter of fact. Like we're all getting older.
Speak for yourself, asshole.
Hey, thanks, Will. I appreciate that. You
You're
youngster.
going to talk about Mooch. You're going to go to disposable income, correct?
Well, it leads to that worry. Yeah, so in part, yes, but what I was going to say was the studies that are going on with Gen Z, you have to understand, if you look at the what are the ones that are their, if you will, predecessors, or Gen X and whoever's before that. My point being is we get older, and as we get older, yes, when you're younger, you're out, you're enjoying more time out, you're going to clubs, you're going to movies, you're doing maybe whatever the social events that people are doing, hanging out, parties at friends' house. But eventually, you do get into your mid-30s. Then you get into your mid-40s. They're not stopping to sell flat-screen TVs. They're not stopping to sell flat-screen TVs. They're not stopping to sell anything that we enjoy in our homes. Those folks that fall into that particular price point right now, if that's where the study leads to, David, they eventually will get older. Now that leads into what Worry just said. Then you have the capital, the free capital to spend at certain ages versus when you're younger in your 20s. So it is different. My point being is when they come out and they say, we're seeing Gen Z is not interested in consoles anymore. Well, okay. But as they approach their maybe 10 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe when the PS6 comes out, or who knows, the PS7, they will probably be interested in it. And they're going to have an 88 inch TV on their wall, and a PS7 underneath it. My point being is, I don't know if those studies necessarily are indicative of the way that they should guide the pivot so immediately. And I mean, I don't know if you know, I was actually saying it a bit better, David, as you were doing your last statistical analysis right there. But I mean, do you see what I'm saying? I think that is a snapshot in time, and it's not necessarily indicative of what the industry is when you're looking at the next 10 years, because in the next 10 years, the Gen Zers are going to be where the Gen Xers are. Time continues to move. It doesn't sit still. So I don't know if those studies actually hold as much water, Dave.
Well, the fair point's made. I would redirect you to, or anyone who's interested in it, have a look at how the demographics in terms of age of players has shifted with Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, with all of them. And they run these statistics off every year. You look at it over the last 10 years, and the bulk of players are moving along that axis. They're not like peaking at a certain age group and then people stop playing games. They're moving along that age axis as time marches forward. So yes, it might be a snapshot in time, but the last decade is saying, well, this snapshot aligns with the past history. And when you try and extrapolate that forward, you go, well, what can we do to make sure that we actually have a customer base going forward that is growing rather than stagnant? And that's the challenge they're going to have. If, from Xbox's perspective, if you access the PlayStation player base, because if the hurdle has always been, I can't afford 2 consoles, but I can afford to keep buying games, which I honestly think is a stupid statistic, but anyway, they put their games on there and they access that player base. Well, great. They've now accessed a lot more players for those games. They can generate more revenue. They've grown their revenue pot without having to find new players on their ecosystem. But their ecosystem will then just naturally attract more people. Same with PlayStation, Nintendo, and PC. It's more around how do you access what's there already versus bringing new ones from outside the market in. And if Gen Z is notorious for debt. They hate debt. They're debt averse. They don't want to borrow money for anything. So they don't have credit cards. They don't look at home loans. They hate taking out loans to do their studies. They just hate the idea of being in debt. So their consumer habits are more around, yes, their disposable income, but it's not around borrowing up front to then pay it back later. Whereas Gen X and millennials, they're more than happy to grab a credit card or borrow money to go and fund their consumer habits. So there's other dynamics at play there too that you need to work your way around.
That's a good point. So, let's kind of just going to a different topic, but all within the same Xbox ecosystem. As I say, shout out to Rob Jones. He says, what's up, Mooch? Hope you're good, man. Hope you're good, Rob. Thank you. Four-Star General says, what's up, Mooch and panel? Looking forward to a great show. It's going to be a great show. Appreciate it, guys. Meg, I'll start with you on this again, kind of go full circle here. So, Starfield's getting an update. And shout out to the great Kami. I'm getting all my information from Kami here tonight. I want to say shout out to Kami, and I do want to say shout out also to the great Zuby Tech. You guys, outstanding with the amount of information you guys put out there. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And anybody that does a podcast, I'll speak for myself, I say thank you for all the hard work that you guys put into it to get that information out. But, Mag, right from, this is from Kami's tweet. Bethesda announces a major update for Starfield, 60 FPS and 40 FPS mode on Series X, not S, which we will be talking about. Custom difficulty options, more detailed surface maps, new ship customizations. You can change your appearance, creation kit. Going out to the beta testers now. Land vehicles confirmed for later. Okay, so another update coming later, but that's fine.
Right.
So we were told that it was chosen specifically to be 30 frames because it was a creative choice.
Yeah. Okay.
So my question...
You have another joke or no?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Carry on.
No. So Meg, I guess my question here, when it comes down to it, okay, please, I want to hear what you have to say about everything you feel about Starfield and where we are now. This was supposed to be the game of the generation. This was supposed to be the game that catapulted Xbox into that leap that it didn't quite get to. But,
yeah, it did not do that.
But when it comes down to it, this happened with Halo Infinite in a sense, right? Where we had this mass empty world that was supposed to have more campaign. We had a very polished multiplayer, which Brap loved very much, but launched with very few maps. And then you have Starfield, which was delayed a year. And when it came out, people are saying, oh, now it's done. So it was delayed a year. It came out 6 months ago, and now it's kind of getting done. So, Meg, I've been saying this on the show forever. I've always said Xbox needed new leadership. And people always point the finger to one person. I've never pointed it to one person. I've said across the board. It's just been bad call after bad call. Where are you when it comes to something like this? You know, some people are like, oh, Starfield's finally going to be great. But people bought Starfield a long time ago.
It's done.
It's done, right? I mean,
it's done. That's what I'm getting at, Mooch. I'm just going to go right into it. Here's the thing. They're always trying to play catch up this entire generation when it came to the big titles, right? And this is where I have a problem with it. Like, oh well, the game's great now. Nobody's playing it.
Yeah.
Nobody's playing it 6 months later, 8 months later, a year later. I mean, obviously people are playing it. I'm being being a little bit over exaggerated, but whatever. The point is that in terms of like the public zeitgeist of the game, okay, the mind frame and everything else, just trying to get the public's opinion on it, they're done with it. And so, like, they could say, wait, I got all these great things or whatever. And you know what? Some people will go back and say, all right, let me check this out. They'll check it out for 2-3 days, and then they drop it. And, like this Fallout situation that's going on. I talked about it with Colt for like an hour and a half on the show on Monday.
Yep.
And I'm just like, we talked about, Fallout. And I said the same thing on that show that I'm going to say right here. People went to go check it out because they didn't have to pay for it. Some people bought it, but the majority already had it, or they got it in Game Pass or whatever, right? And then I think it's Fallout 4 is even in PlayStation Plus. Never mind just in Game Pass. So people just went and go, all right, well, I saw the show, I enjoyed the show, let me go check this out. And they go check it out for a little bit, but like after like 4 or 5 days, no one's talking about it anymore. Right? So the same thing happened here with Starfield. Yes, it's in my opinion, the entire generation for Xbox has been too little, too late. And that's the way I feel. I'm glad you brought up the Halo Infinite thing. Halo Infinite, the campaign was okay. I played it, I finished it, whatever, no big deal. The multiplayer, great idea, but you don't launch a game with 4 maps, and then it takes you a year to launch another 2 maps. Are you out of your mind? Yeah. Are you out of your mind with a multiplayer? You think that people are going to stick around for 2 maps after a year? Call of Duty releases them like Halloween candy, and then these guys are like, okay, well, here's 1 map after 7 months. What are you doing over there? You got 1,000 people working on this. You can't get more than a map. Go take a picture of the street. Yeah.
But I mean, they do talk to you on social media. So
I know. And then they take pictures of like Iceland, the beaches and stuff instead of releasing, for 7 years before I get to see Hellblade 2. But anyways, the thing is that I look at these things, I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then you get the Starfield. We've been working on this for 25 years. What the Christ have you been doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I graduated high school, university, and then the university again, and got a career, had a family, got married, bought a house, had kids, bought cars, and the game still is not finished. What are you doing? So now that they're working on this game, now they're going to get it ready. They're like, oh, now it's 60 FPS, but the 30 frames was an artistic choice. The biggest load of shit I ever heard in my entire life. Yeah. Because now they realize that, listen, at the end of the day, it all came down to the performance of that game. I stopped playing that game because it looked like a strobe light, a strobe light effect in a disco from the 80s. Okay, when I'm playing this game and I'm trying to move around. Once you play 60 and above, and I'm not a PC guy, okay, but funny enough, the majority of the 60 FPS games I did play were on PlayStation. And once you start playing all those games on the PS5, and I go back and I play a 30 FPS game on the Xbox, I'm like, I can't do it. And I turned it after about like 5 hours. I'm like, I'm done. And then on top of that, the walking.
So you're saying that it's getting the 60 frames per second update for the inevitable PlayStation 5 release.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. But here's the other thing: 60 frames for what? At this point, for what? So you can walk faster in an empty world. Yeah. So I can still have 19 load screens from me flying the ship in outer space,
the load
to
screens.
docking, to landing, to the door opening, to walking outside, to another load screen. I was about to go nuts. Sorry, I'm not going to swear.
Okay,
but like, get out of here with this. And like, I'm like, you know what? It's to be fair, I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I know I sound like I am. I'm just Italian. But I'll tell you one thing: is that at the end of the day, if the people who want it enjoy it, God bless.
Absolutely,
have fun.
Absolutely,
enjoy it. But from my perspective, what are you doing at this point? Like, at this point, you're not doing it for that small fan base.
No.
You're not doing it for them. You know what you're doing it for? Just like WorryWart said, you're doing it because after the DLC launches, it's coming to PlayStation 5 Pro, and it's going to play like a dynamo. But the thing is, which is fine, but fundamentally, we have to look at the game itself, not the performance and everything else. If the game is boring and antiquated, what is and I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Okay, so
Mag,
hear about this?
Mag, you just coined a phrase there. Comes the PlayStation 5 Pro, plays like a dynamo.
Holy shit! I didn't even realize I did that.
Mag just did marketing for PlayStation 5 Pro. Didn't even know it.
You know what?
Send them the invoice quick.
Hey, listen, modern hip hop. All you need is one rhyme these days, and you got a song. Like they don't write verses anymore. That's a Drake song right there. I can make $45 million off that.
You just need to sample someone else's music.
I know, and then just cry for a little bit. I could do that. That's yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other story about modern hip hop. Let's go back to the '90s, kids. Anyways, what it comes down to this is that you're still working on a game that is just not interesting and like I said, antiquated, at least for me, and it's not going to bring me back. But like I said, and like WorryWart said, at the end of the day, what it's doing is that they're prepping it up for a relaunch, not only on Xbox with this Shattered Space DLC, they're going to relaunch it for the PlayStation 5, and then they're going to really give another push there. Because if they can sell another 5 million copies on the PS5, then it's a success. Yeah. Right? Because then you're talking about 15 million sold, 10 million sold, whatever the hell it is. Don't listen to those bullshit numbers, by the way. Oh, 10 million! And it was 10 million people downloaded it from a subscription service. That did not mean that was not a purchase. You know, that argument kept going on. But anyways, the thing is that could be a success at that point because now you're maximizing your profit on your investment. And that's what is going to continue on moving forward. And the man to talk about all that kind of stuff is Tim Dog, who just walked into this Jack.
The great Tim Dog, everybody.
Exact same thing I just said.
Yeah, Tim, great to have you. Guys, you know, I had to literally, it's only because I've known Tim for 10 years to get him away from the Knicks preseason, pre-game party. Hopefully Tim can hear us. I know he's over at.
I sent him a DM and told him to hop in.
You owe Tim a beer, Mooch.
I do.
Pull him away from the Knicks game.
The game starts
at 9.
Maple
Leafs game 6 against Bruins are tonight against Boston.
When's that?
Tonight.
Is that later?
Tonight?
Oh yeah, that's going to be a great game.
Well, that's why that's why I can't stay for the whole show. I gotta go. They're gonna go watch
what a great game.
I got reservations.
Well, Tim,
you going to the game?
Are you nuts? What do I got? Like $5,000 to pay for that?
Of course you do, Mag. You're mad.
Well, you would if you had Game Pass, fucker.
I have $5,000, but not for a 3-hour hockey.
Mag, Game Pass allows you to go to Maple Leaf games in the playoffs.
Are you nuts? No. I just reserved the table. I just reserved the table in a place down the road, so I got a bunch of people waiting for me.
You got to reserve a table?
I wish I lived closer to the Meg. I'm not going to lie to you. Meg's literally we all live our lives through your Mag's Twitter.
Getting bottle service tonight,
dude. Canada and hockey, man. Everything is sold.
It's crazy.
Every restaurant, bar, and everywhere is sold out tonight. So
it's awesome, to be honest with you. Tim.
Anyway, sorry.
That's fine. You're fine. Tim, I see you're muted. Tim, if you chime in when you can.
He's back. He's on. He's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tim, you literally. So you know what's funny? It was a massacre today on Twitter. You went off, and I said, I'm feeling the way Tim is here. Tim's going off. Tim, what do you think when you hear what Mag's saying? I mean, I'm a little, listen, my disappointment, I don't want to take a disappointment from anyone who loves Starfield. You enjoyed it, fine. I didn't care for it personally. I put 30 hours in. It wasn't my bag. That's fine. But Tim, now 60 frames is coming out now, and I know the one thing that you've been a bit in an uproar about, which I think you have valid right to, is just not being told the truth. And they told us this was this was done by the developers for a creative decision making, and now the 60 frames is out. So I just sit there and I say to myself, well, which one is it? Was it creative, or was it, or was it because the game wasn't ready? It's, it says it's a creative decision. I have the quote right there. And what do you? I mean, when it comes down to it, is it a leadership issue? Is it? Did it just come down to dollars and cents? What was it, Tim?
I think you could really, to be honest, you could look at who's the guy? I forgot. What? Not Hines. Who's the guy?
Howard.
Booty should be fired. I mean,
Matt Booty.
Listen, these studios have been bought in 2008, 2018. You'd figure they'd be here. Bethesda's games, we have one strikeout. This game looks like, being sold a bunch of bullshit. Creative decision until it isn't. So he at first doesn't belong to be where he is. Phil is just like the guy that he's just trying to keep the restaurant going. He's like telling the owners, "Yeah, man, we're coming out with this, we're coming out with that." You guys know, no groundedness about him. He'll fly, he'll go wherever, whatever, to just keep it going. But I think what Mag said, I agree 100%. And that is, it makes sense for them to do it right now because the hardware is done. What really set me off today was Jez's comments. Now, listen, I used to talk to Phil every single day for 10 years. I played video games every week. I worked my schedule around him. I would say when he would come, okay, we'll be free that time, would be free. He would send me invites. So I know the man very well. Mm-hmm. Jez right now basically was always there with me too, but he's now, Tim Dog's gone, and now he's like, he's Phil's number one guy. Like they are talking every day. He, fortunately for Jez, he got outed by somebody in his Discord, who's just a piece of shit. But the fact is that what he said is true, and that's what he's getting from Phil. So I know how it works. I know what's going on here, and people could say this and that. I just been in this for 10 years. I know how Phil works. I know how he operates, and I know how Jez is, and I know that Jez is just Jez has a job to do.
That's right,
and he has a big following, and I love Jez.
Me too. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll tell Jez, do what you got to do. You got to make money. It's a little different for me because I'm a consumer. That's it. Mm-hmm. But he, it's his job and it's what he does. But he is the number one source for Xbox. Yep. And when he says those things, exactly what he said, that all the games are going, we all knew that, but this is just real confirmation for that. Mm-hmm. And then he also says that the hardware is going to be a niche. That makes sense because everyone that I've talked to, from ex-employees to employees that are currently there, have no idea how the hell they would get that funded. That makes sense because it's not going to be, you're not going to have the budget for a niche hardware that you would for a worldwide global console that you can think you can sell 100 million. It's going to be like it's going to be like the Xbox Elite type deal. So that's dog shit. And basically they you have Sarah Bond putting up blue and green hearts. Like, fuck you. I want to be spoken to like a real consumer. Be honest. Be open about it. Tell everyone to take the bandage off or whatever you want to say. The way they act is it just aggravates me because, you can see right through them. They're lying through their teeth and they act like they're such these high and mighty people. We're all about this and that. In the end, they sell you down a river in 2 seconds. So I think it's kind of obvious that's kind of permeating from them, and they're bleeding Xbox. They're bleeding Xbox fans by the day. Loyal Xbox fans that spent upwards to $50,000 onto their products from games and consoles and DLC. And the writing's on the wall. Sony's going to take this market share that Xbox did have, and they're going to take it all up. And they're a third party. They're going to get more third party exclusives. People who say exclusives are going away, I got news for you. Sony's smart. They're going to harp on this. Oh, you don't want to develop for Xbox because it's a headache, right? Yeah, you don't get no money. Well, let me give you, a cool $60 million. Let's do a little exclusivity deal. Let's really take it to them. That's Sony and that's business, and that's what they're going to push. So Xbox right now is on its back. It's in a lot of trouble. Hardware's done. Is it going to be something that's going to be a worthwhile investment? That's another debate because they spent so much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll make money as a third party, going full
Absolutely,
third party, but
yeah.
they're going to lose the hardware side of the business.
Well,
But
Tim,
a very small amount of it, and they're just going to be shown up by Sony their whole time. So they're going to be like an EA. Like in 5 years, you're going to look at Sony as, and Nintendo as
Tim,
console makers. You look at like Xbox, like people look at EA and Ubisoft.
It was funny.
Yeah,
you said,
Tim, let me ask you a question, Tim.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a fast
No, me
question.
first,
You're,
me first,
you're saying, I'm going to lose my thought. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ben. I do have a question for Tim, but go ahead, Worry.
No, I was just going to say, if you're saying that their next piece of hardware is going to be niche, then are you saying that obviously if the
Chaz is
budget,
saying that, but it is.
okay, if the budget is much less than it would be for say an Xbox Series X, then how are they, competing next generation when it comes to third parties pushing the envelope with like PS6 and running those third party games on their hardware?
Exactly, valid question. They're basically going to be a redheaded stepchild even more. So, this isn't going anywhere good. And, I see people well, let's go and do exclusives. Like you said, maybe in 15 years, you can make a case that Sony could be selling consoles for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Casuals want a
company. Of course they're
simplistic
gonna
way
make
to
hardware.
play video games. They don't want to be on a PC. And some people don't want a handheld. They want to hook it to the TV, and they want to say, hey, bling, 2 seconds,
Yeah.
play your God of War.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
So, you can make that argument, but the fact of the matter is that Sony's in a really strong position, and they were worried when this whole deal came down. I heard that through multiple people when the Call of Duty first happened, they had meetings, and you saw how hard they fought about it. But Xbox just gave it away. They got scared. They saw the money. They saw the books. And basically Satya and Amy said, what the hell are you doing, Phil? And Phil said, I put all my games. I love everyone and put all my games on PlayStation. And, we won't tell anything to the fans. We'll be real coy about it. And we'll keep the ones that as long as we can keep them. And then when they really find out, well, okay, we lost them, but we were going to lose them anyway. So, yeah, I mean, how could you be behind that, in my opinion, as a fan?
Yeah.
Hey Tim, I have a question for you. This is the one thing that's always kind of confused me a bit about their leadership, Xbox. They seem to care so much about what people say about them on Twitter.
Yes.
Or they worry too much. I think it's cool that you got an opportunity game with Phil Spencer, but I'm like, Phil, you're the CEO, you should be head down in the trenches and not engaging with the fans the way you are. I never understood that.
I agree. I remember one person, an executive that doesn't work for them. They looked at me and they said, Tim, wouldn't you rather have them? He asked me this question: would you rather them spend money on FanFest and do all this, or would you just actually want them to compete? And it always stood with me because I thought about it. I said, you know what? I'd rather them just compete. I want to see Xbox do well. I want to see them win. Now, people will say, well, what is it, console wars? You're 40 years old. You shouldn't be involved. I'm a competitive person as it is. I'm waiting. This Knicks game tonight, I'm going to be going crazy. It's just how I am. I can't change how I am.
Everyone is. Why would you create something in a market, put it on a shelf, and say you don't care about how it does compared to something else?
At this point, they really are reeling. I mean, like I said, everything that Jez said confirmed. All the things that I knew were true. It's just I just hate them. I hope maybe they just get hey, let's just maybe we could salvage this thing. And now it's unsalvageable, and they're just bleeding fans as a day. And as they can't do anything good, and then something negative happens. So they'll have I heard they have a really strong E3 or whatever you want to call it. They'll have that, but you'll have something like Gears Collection going to PlayStation 5 day one. And and everyone's just what is that? So it's just they can't get themselves out of the way. They want to go away. They want to go third party. They said it. Xbox screen, when you play PlayStation, when you're playing an Xbox game, you're playing Xbox. So that's what their mentality is. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they won't say the word exclusive, and they won't say the word exclusive console. They won't say they won't. Who knows if they even say Xbox? I mean, it's
That's
just
confusing right there. Don't you think maybe they should drop that word? Because what does Xbox mean?
I agree. At that
If
point,
I'm playing
there's a lot of
Starfield on a
damage
PlayStation
associated with
5 and to them I'm playing on an Xbox, what does that even mean?
I agree.
It's funny.
Like, there's nothing exclusive about it, and
Right.
people who say exclusives don't matter, they absolutely do. Let's
Well, take your star player and let him go play for other teams then.
Yeah.
Once a
or
month.
be McDonald's
doesn't matter.
and have a better version of Burger King Whopper at
Forget the
McDonald's.
draft, right? Forget the draft, the star player. He's got to go play for everybody once a month so that everybody gets a chance.
Just
Tim,
share the love. Don't love
Tim,
the other team.
Tim, I was at Burger King the other day, and I was asking him why the Whopper isn't at McDonald's, and I said it was anti-consumer.
You know, it's funny what Tim says and what he's saying. And just to go full circle, I was and I'm paraphrasing here. I watched the Jeff Gertzman show because I think the way he does his podcast, it's solo cast, it's hysterical. So he was like, he goes, so the Xbox showcase is coming up in June, and he goes, in the Jeff Gertzman way, he goes, we'll see some Bethesda games, and he goes, we'll see some Activision games, and he goes, he goes, well, that's weird. He goes, that's odd. He goes, that's Bethesda, Activision. He goes, I don't know what we'll see from actually Xbox. You know what I mean? And it's funny. And it was just, he was being funny, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was really, really funny how he kind of put it. And that's the thing is, we said this Tim, I think it was the last time you were on the show about a month and a half ago. We were saying, what is Xbox? What is Xbox right now? It
has the word box in the title. So, I mean.
So, yeah, I'm very, very curious to how they're going. That's why I brought the topic up of the Xbox showcase in how they're going to handle exclusivity. And that is it. I don't know if they
won't.
I don't think they will either. I don't think they'll bring up.
They'll just say like Blade. They'll do like Blade.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
It'll just say coming soon or whatever. It won't have on the bottom series, PC, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It'll just leave it blank.
Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
It won't say any of that. It'll just have the game name and it'll just have the credits.
And then you'll have every one of these Xbox fans scratch their heads and be like, why, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know,
that's going to be the. I think
that's exactly what they're going to do. But what annoys me is that we all know it, and we're calling them on it, and they're just following through. That's the one thing that listen. Everyone can make a bad decision. Everyone can make a bad decision to go a certain way. But you could also stop. And this is the thing. What happened to them in 2013? They knew going into that show that they could have not announced DRM, and they could have done what Sony's done. And if they had done that, we might be far different situation right now. But they did it. They went through it, and they did what they knew what was going to happen. So I kind of like this is the same thing here.
But Tim,
they're going ahead with something that they know is going to blow up in their face.
But think about this though for a second. Why? Do you think that they know that it's going to blow up in their face?
I know for a fact that there are current employees right now that I'm not going to say who that take my tweets and put them in groups, and there's a legitimate concern of what the hell's going on at Xbox.
There is a civil war going on there, Tim. You know that, and I know that.
Yeah, and we can't even talk about it, but whatever.
No, you can't say what it's about either.
No, we can't talk about it, but I've spoken to people that work there, and they've told me that there is literally a cultural divide at the company as we speak. There's one camp that feels one way, one camp that feels the other way, and there's a lot of tension going on because well, we all know why. We're not going to get into the details, but absolutely, I've spoken to people that work there. They're not happy 100%. That I know this, by the way. Because you're
just confirming the same thing that because they've come out to me. Yes. People think like, oh, Tim Dog's is crazy. I've talked to every one of their ex-employees who've been fucked over, from Major Nelson. Like Kareem gets knocked out, and you don't see Sarah and Phil give him you've done great. They said nothing. I mean you send off Larry like that. A guy of 20 years, he was your spokesperson. You send him off on a tweet. You don't have even the Mets. They're a shit organization. With fucking Lupon had a video for somebody that was in the.
I thought was he longer than 20 years though? Wasn't he Major Nelson? Was he long? He was longer than 20.
He was there like.
I don't know, but they totally railroaded him, and he's a
original
complete
Xbox.
gentleman. He's going to take the high road. But I know for a fact people were like, "What the fuck happened there?" They were like, "What the fuck happened with Kareem?"
Yeah.
About that. We talked about that one. We know what happened. We just can't say what happened.
Yeah, Barr's been very vocal about what's going over there too. I mean, he's been vocal for some time, and my understanding is, I guess he wanted them to be a little more competitive.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They don't want to be this. I can't. I don't know. They just want to have They want to be there to win. And what they want to? They want a company that wants to be behind winning and trying to be the best.
Yeah, no,
and not miss everyone.
Tim, they were that at one point.
Go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead,
Dave.
They want to be the best and competitive. My goodness. However, the one thing that can I just intervene just for 1 second here? There's one thing that we have to all sort of sit back and think about for just a second. And there's something that I always say that when I'm on XNC is that, all of this conversation at the end of the day means absolutely nothing if the games aren't good.
Amen.
And the thing that has happened this generation so far for the first 4 years, the games have consistently not been good outside of not even a handful. I would say 3 of them have been excellent games, but the rest have been mediocre. So all this conversation, all of this means nothing if you're not, and it doesn't matter about the score. Oh, okay, I got an 87, this and that, whatever. Okay, I'm Metacritic. But if nobody's playing them, that means that you're not grabbing the public. The average Joe, the average consumer out there is not gravitating to your product, which means it doesn't matter what's happening. I just looked right now, by the way, while everyone was talking. I'm like, let me see how everything else is doing. Everybody's talking about Sea of Thieves. All the other Xbox games are now 36% off because nobody's buying them.
Yeah.
Right? So the only one that's successful right now is Sea of Thieves. So you know what they're going to look at? They're going to look at that and say, all right, well, the experiment was successful enough that, it got in the news and everybody was talking about it. People are buying it, but now they're on sale because no one's buying Pentiment. Okay, but I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying people aren't playing it.
Sure.
And it's not speaking to the average gaming consumer. So the thing is that now this is going to embolden them further and say, you know what? We needed a better game, a slightly better game like Sea of Thieves. Now it's time for Gears. Now it's time for Halo. Now it's time for Forza. Now it's time for whatever. And then what's going to happen is and as we have already said, Tim, myself, both got crucified in January for it. And then now that other people are saying it, they're like, oh, well, I guess it's okay. This is like Stockholm Syndrome. Like people are just now like...
I just said that yesterday to somebody. Oh, my God.
It's like Stockholm Syndrome. So now they're accepting it. And I'm like, what about me? Where's my public apologies? Wait till those games come out. I'm going to be an insufferable prick for like a week.
I've been insufferable.
Oh, wait. I got videos lined up. I got skits. I got it. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Wilmy. I got skits, videos lined up. I'm going to lose subscribers, gain new ones. Don't care. The point is that this all boils down to great quality product. And if they don't that, people are not going to gravitate to nothing.
That's the point, Mag. That's the point. And I want to get David in here. I want to get Kami's opinion on it too. I think when it comes down to it, the one thing that Phil said during that one, what was it, the XCast thing, and he said, just making great games doesn't necessarily, but it does. And me and Mag were saying before the show started, and welcome also, shout out to Red Hood 420 who's here with us. I got to say that when I take Avowed, when Avowed was shown, I know we said it earlier in the show, but more people have showed up now. When I first saw Avowed, I said, "Oh, that's got some true potential, right?" I really, really think that's great. And Obsidian, outstanding. I still think Obsidian is their gold star of all the teams they acquired. I think that's their gold star. And the more I see of it, the more it just looks watered down. It doesn't look very good. It's less appealing each time they show it. And the reason is kind of what Tim's saying, for anyone who's listening to Tim. And you have to understand, I've known Tim a long time. Tim's speaking from the heart here, and he's if not the biggest Xbox fan in the world. Him and Crap are going to go, round for round for that title. And shout out to Crap Gamer, by the way. And, I got to say that, like, the games this generation just haven't hit. And I think, Meg, when you said, well, there's a few out there that you would give a nod to, maybe you're saying Hi-Fi Rush, right? Or you're saying maybe Forza Horizon 5.
Forza Horizon 5 and Psychonauts 2.
It's
Those
Psychonauts
games were
2,
masterpieces.
right?
Outside of that,
And Psychonauts 2 was pretty much, it was almost done, by the time they got that thing out. You know what I mean? By the time they acquired them, it was well on its way. So, I mean, that's fine. Still give credit where credit's due. But David,
it's on PlayStation.
It's also on PlayStation. Yes, it is. Thank you for that, Worry. David, what were you going to say? You were going to chime in when Tim was discussing a few items.
No, somebody else touched on it.
Oh, they already got to it. All right. Well, Kami, then I'll go to you then. I want to hear what you have to say. I mean, I know that usually you don't get this, but I got to tell you, these are the guys that we've been talking games and industry for, a very long time. And there's a lot of people, their hearts are out there. They do care about this. It's their favorite pastime. People are you guys see all the sports clips that are out there every single day, right? When a team loses. And this is, what you feel when you see something like this. Leadership's just been questionable. The games are questionable, which means they don't have their finger on the pulse. Kami, where do you come from the outside kind of looking in, being the news? You report a lot of news as well. Well, Kami's may have stepped away. Not sure. He's here.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, too, because I'm going to have to get out of here, guys. Because like I said, I'm at a kind of a party. I'm in my nephew's.
I appreciate you joining, Tim. I do. I know that you came in, quick, and I would have loved to have you for the whole show. But
come on. We'll set something up for a whole show. But I wanted to just give you a little tidbit. The last thing I heard of Avowed was it was unplayable last year. It was horrible, and now it's good, and it's like it's much better. Mm-hmm. But it's like at this point like a 70 game. Don't expect much big stuff from Avowed. Probably they really should just delay the thing. Yeah. And just don't have a Redfall experience again.
Right. So. Yeah, when you look at the game, Tim, the last gameplay we saw, when you're going up games like against Baldur's Gate 3 and games it just looked like it was lacking a lot in story, character animation. I mean, it didn't look, the fight battles or the battles with the enemies, it just looked very, very mundane and very just drawn out, and it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't very appealing. And that sucks, because that was actually the game. If you said, okay, Mooch, what are you looking forward to this year from Xbox? Avowed was my choice, and it probably still is my choice, even though it's continuously dropping in my favorite category quickly. But no, Tim, I appreciate you being here. Red, Tim,
thank you guys.
Tim, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you stopping by. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I've just loop back in at the back end of that. There's always that, we touched on it before, if the games are mediocre or average and we're expecting top shelf, that disconnect does far more damage than if they came out and said, hey, look, this thing's going to be a AA level, and that's where you should be pitching it. The fact that we all know that there's that, it was called Civil War that's going on over there at Microsoft between Xbox leadership, management, and all that. That it's not just within Xbox; it's across a lot of that personal computing area where the certain items are on the chopping block. It's an outcome of the economic conditions, but it's getting to a point of perform or die at the bottom end of the totem pole over there. And fair enough, that's how businesses are run. What I dislike. And I primarily play on PlayStation, but I like games, right? I like playing games. I'll play them wherever.
Right.
What I really dislike is the lack of respect that Phil and his leadership team have for years shown towards their marquee titles. And you can't have one or two excellent games coming out every couple of years. The cadence of releases from Xbox is at that high level is just not there, and it's being chewed up by other third parties and other competitors. So when they go and put these games out on PlayStation, like you said before, Sea of Thieves is doing well, but it's already on sale, and others are on sale as well because they haven't gone at the initial launch what they thought they would. You can have 20 million players, but if 5 million people bought it, you've not converted the player base into revenue. That's what Satcher and Amy and those other ones right at the top look at. And they said it in the court cases for the ABK acquisition. The intention is that this acquisition is profitable to the shareholder from day one. And it hasn't. Bethesda was the same. must be profitable from day one. It's not. And that's an issue that's being identified and addressed at the highest level of Microsoft. So Phil and his crew, they've been like incognito. They've hardly been seen, heard of.
How could they make that big of a miscalculation, though? How does that happen?
Inexperience, and they don't listen to those that would have told them differently. That's that whole, we must do this because our end goal is such an achievement, or is so far down the track that we didn't see this downturn coming that, I've been talking about with anyone who'll listen for the last 2 years. It's going to come off in a hurry and it's going to stagnate the industry. It's not just gaming, it's everything. It's coming off a peak and it's going to slow down and everyone's going to cop it. And they didn't factor that in. They obviously didn't factor in having to take 12 months to close the deal and the huge opposition that was coming from it. But likewise, Bobby wasn't going to back out of getting his massive payday. It's not to say that it is a horrible outcome. They've certainly got more levers to pull now to do something with to make money, but it's not going to be what, as Tim Dog was saying before, it's not going to make the hardcore fans happy what their solutions are going to be to make money. And if they don't make money, they don't exist. And that's bottom line. You can like it, hate it, doesn't matter. If Xbox as a division can't fix its issue and how much money it's now bleeding out, and is because the other areas within Microsoft that were propping it up are also starting to suffer, when the torch gets turned on and you're sitting at the bottom of the totem pole and you're saying, I need somebody else to backfill me because I'm still in my loss position, it's not good outcome. And we're looking at this, they're bleeding money. They'll either change their strategy, which they've done, turn it off, or sell it. And they've chosen not to turn it off. They've chosen not to sell it. They've changed their strategy. Will this change in strategy work? Who knows? But it's certainly making a difference to a degree. Because it stemmed the bleeding a little bit.
So David, there's a few things I have to bring up. Then, Kami, we hear you now. Kami, I apologize, guys. Just so you know, Kami's the microphone wasn't working. Kami, good to have you back here. I want to say a few things that David said, and I'll pose the question to you, Kami. Is that when it comes down to it, they are changing strategies, but it's interesting. The strategy is they now want to sell their games. Right?
What a wild concept.
What a wild idea, Kami, right? And we've been so there's two things.
Craziness.
Right? Who would have thought of it? So that's the first thing. The other thing I find very, very interesting that David said, and David, if I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize. You said it early on in your last edition just now, is they're not able to have the output in the Game Pass. And that's why I have this other topic here for us to talk about. And that is with, Xbox hardware at all-time low, new Game Pass titles that have been coming out. Not all of them. Someone's going to go, oh, wait a second, Mooch, Dead Island 2 just came out. I understand. I got it. Dead Island 2 came out a while ago, too. And it's been on sale for like $29.99 100 times. My point is this, is that are they starting to realize, Kami, that maybe Game Pass was a mistake? And that's a twofold question. Is that even the developers that they've acquired, the publishers they've acquired, are not able to turn the games around so fast, and when they are, the quality is diminishing. Like it's just the bottom is just falling out. And the other part of it is basically they're shifting back to what always worked. And we said it on the show: if it's not broke, don't fix it. Kami, they're now going back to, hey, wait, this other platform sells games. Let's put our games over there where people will buy them for $70. So, Kami, what do you think with Game Pass and their new strategy to sell games?
I don't know if they necessarily think it's a mistake or that Game Pass was a mistake. I think it's more so that they want to double dip, right? Because you can have Game Pass on your console, but then you can also sell your games on Steam,
That's right.
and then also on PlayStation, Nintendo, etc.
Good point. With a double dip. Great point.
I think that's kind of their plan. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to stand up for Starfield.
Go ahead. Please.
I know it's kind of controversial game, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's, a masterpiece or anything. I have the same sort of criticisms as everyone else, but I enjoyed it for the most part. I played like 75, 80 hours.
Yeah. And I'm in the same camp as you, to be honest.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed a few other Xbox games, so I'm going to say, they've had more than 3 good games.
Although I will say that procedurally generated abandoned / deserted building that pops up on every single planet that you go to is a bit much.
Yeah, exploration is probably like my biggest.
It's not great.
The biggest thing I don't like about it.
But that was also its biggest selling point.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You thought the procedural generation would be a little bit more deep. I mean,
that's my favorite thing about Bethesda in general is their exploration. So
yeah, it just doesn't work in this grand scale. I don't think their style of game. I think Fallout 4, the resurgence of that, I was playing that, and I think that was like the Fallout that most people maybe didn't like. But there's just so much more in terms of exploration. Like every minute to 2 minutes, there's something to see, pulling you in one direction, pulling you in another direction. And when you multiply that by the infinite number of planets that they want procedurally generated in Starfield, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I guess all these acquisitions were about getting more output to put games on Game Pass, and maybe that alone isn't working for them, which is why they are starting to experiment with putting games on other platforms. Do you guys think that this is like a push from the higher ups at Microsoft, and maybe like people like Phil Spencer maybe don't necessarily want to go multi-platform, but they're kind of getting pressured to do it?
I could
because you guys have mentioned a Civil War a couple times, so I wonder if that's what you're talking about.
That is 100% of fact.
Yeah,
that is 100% of fact. It is coming from the Microsoft, not the Xbox camp. It's coming from the Microsoft camp, specifically their CFO. So because he's got Satya Nadella's here, and he's the one who's came up with that. And that was it. Tim Sweeney, is that his name? I always forget his name.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Xbox CFO.
That's the Xbox CFO.
Yes, is that the Xbox one? Okay,
yeah, Amy Hood's Microsoft.
Amy Hood is Microsoft.
Amy Hood. So it was Tim Sweeney, Amy Hood. They were canoodling. That's a great word, by the way.
I like that.
They were canoodling with Satya Nadella, talking about how to maximize profit for something that they felt was a very stagnant business model. And so I should rephrase that. Not a stagnant business model, stagnant business situation specifically for Xbox, because the model can work for other people who are.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, yeah. So for other people who are obviously much more successful at it. Anyways, what they ended up doing is absolutely they were the ones who brought it to Satya's ear. He's the one who's trying to maximize profit, because at the end of the day, he's going to get his golden parachute and walk away while the profits are high, right? Because what is he doing now? You have to entice investors. To continue to invest.
Mag, here's a question for you. I like how Kami's asking questions. I'm going to throw a question out there that I didn't have. It's kind of a curveball. If the ABK deal doesn't go through. Things completely change. Things are not the way they are right now. Do they follow suit with games on PlayStation like they did, or they stick to their strategy? I think they
I don't
might not
think
have.
I'm gonna answer this, and then I got to go because the Maple Leafs are calling. However, here's the situation. I think that all of these push for all these studios was not just to bolster Game Pass. I think that, as Kami was saying, I think that was the initial idea, and that was the initial vision of what they were going to do. Like, because they were following, at that point, the Disney model. Because what did Disney do? Disney walks in, and then they're like, all right, well, we need stuff. So what do? They buy Pixar, they buy Lucasfilm, they buy Marvel. Okay, and then they got all the IPs, and then they launched right after that, they launch the subscription service, right? Yeah, right. And there you go. You got D plus, and then they did what they did. But anyway, so I think that was initially the idea. However, I think that when ABK, when ABK showed up and that situation, that's when they said, "Listen, we'll give it a shot." And I've been saying this from day one. So, and I'm not wavering on this at all. I said it from day one. I said, "I bet you $1 million is that Satya said, all right, listen, Phil, I'll give you a shot, but if we don't do this, we become the next Tencent." Period. And then therefore, because you do not spend $70 to $80 billion without a contingency plan. And at this point, what I saw them doing is saying, listen, we'll give you a shot, or maybe we'll just keep, a small market of this open so people can continue on with their digital purchases, right? Because people are like, oh, what's going to happen to all my 500 games that I got in the digital? They'll still release something for you, okay? Because if they can make a PSVR 2 knowing that only about 2 or 3 million people are going to buy it in its lifetime, I'm sure they'll be okay with selling 15 to 20 million Xboxes, right? For the people who want it as an option, right? So I think they'll continue to do that. However, I think that Satya said at that point, says, okay, give you the shot. I'll give you, we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, we become the second largest third-party publisher on the planet, and we make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And that's all they give a shit about. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about XNC. They don't care about Xbox 2. They don't care about CrossFire. They care about making that money. And then at the end of the day, if a couple of people cry, 10 more people will go and replace those people. So
just like every other corporation in the world,
exactly.
right?
Thank you, Wilmy. Yes, exactly. They don't give a shit. That's what it is.
You mean companies like to make money?
I know, right? It's like when the guy sold me my Jeep. I mean, he didn't even blink when he told me $80,000.
No kidding, right? Exactly. So Wilmy,
and I asked why I couldn't buy one at the Chevy dealership, and he just laughed.
Don't buy the Jeep.
Did
you tell him that was anti-consumer?
So that's it at the end of the day, and I still think that was the plan from ABK and on. I don't think that was the plan with Bethesda, because I think that was more along the lines of what they were what they were originally moving towards. But when ABK came around, that's when they started the bean counter started whispering in their ear and saying, "We got an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to maximize profit on something that we feel is kind of not really working out the way we wanted it to." And that's where it all changed. Anyway,
it's going to be very
damn bean counters.
No, I was just going to say, gentlemen, I have to go. The Boston Bruins need to die tonight. So, everybody, have yourselves a great evening.
Thank you,
Maybe
Mag.
not die, but just be
Go Leafs.
Just be severely injured so we can.
Brad Marchand is a beast. Brad Marchand is a beast, man.
That guy is a monster.
Marchand is
unbelievable. That guy's a monster. But anyways, guys, great show. I gotta run. Everybody, have a great night. Chat, you guys are amazing. Mooch, thank you for the invite.
Mag, thanks for
talk
being
to
here.
you guys real soon.
Mag, thanks for being here, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Man.
Shout out to Mag.
All right,
guys.
We'll talk.
Absolutely, Mag. I'll get a hold of you this weekend. I appreciate that. Wilmy Hood said something a second ago, and Brap, this is something that you've been saying on this show. I know you say it on Brap as well. Wilmy goes, you mean like every other corporation? And Wilmy was 100% right. Like nothing is actually wrong from the corporate world that they want to pivot to make money. That's what they do. Brap, that's one of the things that I think no matter how many more years we do the podcasting realm, that we're going to find out that we'll never have an answer for why everyone expects the gaming industry to be different than any other industry.
It's really weird, and I've had this conversation with Falky quite a bit, where like people treat the gaming industry like different than any other consumer product. It follows the same economic laws of, the same economic laws, the same. It goes through. It's impacted by inflationary dynamics. Falky and I've talked about that quite a bit. It's not different from any other consumer product. And people just treat it like it's its own thing, and it's not. Like it follows the same rules of economic.
Let's be honest. It's tribalism.
Well, yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, I mean Wilmy nailed it. It's tribalism, and people want to, just kind of sidestep those realities for the sake of tribalism, and it's unfortunate. And I think what I think in the Xbox's case, I think what's happened too is that. I really do think that when I asked that question to Tim, like, why are they so focused on the loudest voices who are a small group of the consumer market on the Xbox side and seem to really try to cater to those individuals? Like, that's just weird to me. Like, you should be trying to capture more of that market and not pleasing and acquiescing to these consumers, these content creators that are, very pro Xbox. Because I feel like it's kind of hurt them. I feel like it's hurt them in the long run.
And to run on your point.
Yeah.
Now, I've been here for an hour and a half. And I like everybody on the panel. But I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Go ahead. That's why it's Crossfire.
Now, Mooch, we've known each other a long time. I love you like a brother.
Absolutely.
I know you're a PlayStation-centric podcast. You have spent an hour and a half talking about Xbox. Ironically, that's what you've been talking about.
Yeah, but the show would be over.
I listen to your show every week.
The show would be over if
whether you realize it or
PlayStation
not.
Was great.
Every week, it's the same thing.
Right, but that doesn't help Xbox.
That doesn't mean anything.
But it keeps that mindset
Well,
it
what mine
keeps
says.
Xbox being talked about, whether it's good or bad.
No.
Press is press.
No. You got that? No. I got to stand up for
You're not
myself.
growing. You're not growing
Really?
a base of consumers by talking about them on a podcast every week. That's Microsoft's problem.
You would
with
be
Xbox.
amazed, man. You would really
No
be
one's
amazed.
buying Xboxes because we're talking about Xbox in a podcast.
But
can
the
look at the
thing
numbers.
is, now here's the catch. This is where I'm going to play advocate. If Xbox is so horrible, then why is every PlayStation podcast talk about nothing but Xbox?
Yeah, but
Because it's
Tell
so
me
horrible.
the good
Xbox-
things that PlayStation's doing.
Xbox channels.
Tell me about Stellar Blade. Tell me about Final Fantasy. Tell me something else.
But we're on a podcast talking about a particular topic. If you want to talk about PlayStation,
Right.
and what
I was
they're
just
doing
going to go.
well,
Yeah.
then we change the topic.
Right.
It's not a great sign that we're talking about Xbox. It doesn't help Xbox because we're talking about it and we're talking about the shortcomings of it every week or every other day. I don't know, because this is the first time I've been on a podcast for a while. But to equate talking about something every week as though that's going to help them is just not factual.
I say this every week, Wilmy, and you know this. So I know you asked the question to play devil's advocate, but you already know the answer. We cover the gaming news, and I know you're on Twitter. You're Mr. Twitter, and
Yeah.
right.
Mr. Twitter.
So all day today, what was Twitter?
Until I got banned the first time.
Well, that's true. But what was Twitter talking about today?
Oh, I have no idea because I post memes and bullshit and I get back off.
Let me fill you in. It was Starfield, 60 FPS, the Xbox exclusivity problem, the showcase, and Xbox management. That's what we do here. We talk about the weekly news.
Oh, I'm not saying now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they haven't fucked up. I'm not saying that at all.
We're not talking about it. But you asked, why do we talk about that? That's the news. Last week we did talk about Stellar Blade and the controversy. That was last week's news. So my point
that's
being
still
is
kind
that
of creepy to me because I watched some of the videos and that's really weird.
it is. That is.
That was creepy. Those guys are
that's
creepy
odd.
as hell.
Dude, I'm sorry, man. If you in the chat, if you're making videos over this game, please put a 1 in the chat because we're going to make fun of you now.
Who's recording you?
Are you guys talking about that protest?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mooch, real quick, I gotta get going here in like a minute, but I want to just ask a question to Falky real quick before I leave. Because I've been thinking about this, and I know we just talked about it. Like we know Xbox is making next generation hardware, but Falky, I keep looking at those numbers, that 30% decline in hardware revenue.
Yeah,
and at some point, when do they say? And this is what's puzzling to me because we've seen them cut bait before with their with Zune, with Windows Phone. I think they'll eventually cut bait with Xbox hardware, but why invest the R&D? Why release another piece of hardware if you're seeing 30% decline in hardware revenue? And it's not just like one quarter. This is consecutive quarters now. And now your CFO Amy Hood is saying we're projecting that it's going to be negative again next quarter. Like that's where the math isn't mathing for me.
Well, the compounding part of that as well is it might be down 30% year on year, but last year in this period it was down double-digit percentages as well. So it's taken a nosedive compared to where it was 2 years ago. And that was in the first 18 months of its launch. So, why would you do that? Well, clearly they see something that a lot of others don't. And it's most likely, I won't say it definitely is, but it's most likely they're looking at a transition into some kind of cloud gaming apparatus or device. Now, the conversations around that the internal Xbox Tower team has been disbanded and sent elsewhere, and that the Surface Pro team are taking over development of the next piece of hardware. Well, Surface Pro is a tablet effectively. They shift into something that's low cost, handheld gaming on the go style device that can hook into the cloud via whatever technology that they've built into it, and it costs them a quarter of what it currently costs them to make a Series X or a Series S, then why wouldn't you consider that? Because you've still got, as someone pointed out before, 15 to 20 million people who are likely going to buy it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'll buy it because I bought a Portal, and I didn't think most people joked about the Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's nothing wrong with pursuing that as an option, provided that it either sells at a profit or at break even, and it is able to deliver engagement on the back end with the software sales. But it's the same problem that they've had for the last decade. They're not selling enough games to support that lost lead from the console. And it would be a completely different story if they had done a couple of things differently in the last 18 months. It would be a completely different outlook. And it wasn't huge changes, but that's the other thing to factor in as well. If you just say, right, that's it, whatever's on the shelf, that's the last that we've made, we're not making any more, cut it off, the outcome of that is quite detrimental, where not only will you lose faith from those that have bought it, you just won't get people to engage with it at all, because the commentary then becomes, oh, Xbox is done, it's cooked, it's finished, it's not doing it anymore. Look how long it took Sega to get, when they stopped making consoles, look how long it took for them to dig themselves out of that hole. That was the better part of 7 or 8 years, when they stopped making the console and just went to software manufacturing or developing software. It took them a fair chunk of time and a lot of money to dig themselves out of that hole and get back up to a level of sensibility. So if you take it in a step-by-step approach where you're not going to just cut off 20 million in people, that's not something to sneeze at. That's a lot of consoles. 20 million is a huge amount of consoles. If you can convert 10 or 15 of those over to a handheld device and they stay engaged, they can still access their libraries, they're still paying their subscriptions, that's a revenue stream that is tangible. If you just cut it off and say, right, we don't have a console anymore, you can only access Game Pass on these third-party devices. They have restricted, they're telling people they have to go and buy a new device somewhere else who don't have a new device. That's going to cost them money. They will get pissed off. You've also then said, well, now we've got to go through all the expense and effort of getting Game Pass onto these other platforms. And that will have a severe restriction if they try to put it on PlayStation. Because I can tell you now, PlayStation will continue to say no to putting Game Pass in their ecosystem up to the point where Xbox says, all right, we'll take all third-party games out of Game Pass and we'll only have games that we own or publish in here. And we won't put them in day and date. We'll put them in 12 months, 6 months, whatever the matching requirement is. Then PlayStation will say, yeah, sure, no dramas, but we'll still take 30% of your subscription fee up front. And that, those sort of arrangements cost a lot of money when you try and do them all at once. So you got to take people on the journey softly. That's why when the pivot happened, they said, oh, we got 4 games coming and we'll talk about the rest at a later date. Or we don't want to talk about the rest. We know there was more coming. They don't want to talk about it because they don't want to piss everyone off in the one go. Because it's a change management issue that you'll lose the narrative really quickly. And that's why anyone seen from Greenberg, he was a mouthpiece for forever, and then all of a sudden he's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's not buying sneakers and having mantinis, dude.
Yeah,
I've said for years he's like the worst spokesman on the planet.
He's gone. Booty's dead silent. Sarah Bond sticks her head up occasionally and gets slapped every time it happens. Who's heard from Phil since that podcast disaster? And like Xbox management is just nowhere on this. And Microsoft management is basically stepped in and taken the keys and said, it's my house, now go away. But if you don't take it slowly, because people hate change, everyone hates change. It's just some people react worse than others. If they don't take them on that journey in a step-by-step process over a period of time, you try and do it all at once, it'll go from being Xbox is okay, we just need to fix a few things, to where's Xbox? They're just gone.
Right.
That they would just flick the switch off and that'd be it, because it's not worth the pain.
It's kind of taking the Band-Aid off slow, David. And I mean, I think, like you said, change does affect people differently. A lot of people don't like it at all. Most people don't like it. But at the same time, I think this is a strategic move that they're doing by doing it slowly. Of course, there's more than 4 games. Absolutely. Listen, when they say there's smoke, there's fire. There's enough people in the industry. And like I said, you guys all do your own due diligence. You guys are all your own detectives out there. Kami, you've covered a lot of this. So I'm going to get Red Hood in here too. Red, you've come in here. Shout out to the great Red Hood who works.
Hey, Mooch, real quick. I got to get going, man.
All right, but Brap, no, thank you for being here, Brap. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great conversation. Thank you,
It was awesome. Thanks to the great Brap. You guys know Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Red, Listen, I got to get you in here, Red. I'd like to get you for 2 full hours, maybe 3 hours if I could.
Yeah, it's just you changed it, man. If it was Friday, you would have got 2 full hours.
Friday was so tough, though. Fridays, you were doing a show before my show, so it was
and I would still make it sometimes. This time I have work on Thursdays and stuff. So
I can't win. It's a Mooch's life. Red, but
then I got sick and stuff like that. I still have my cough and stuff like that. So
no, you sound great. I'll just tell you. Right now.
Like 3 weeks ago, though. I sounded awful. Like I sounded like I was on my deathbed. But.
Well, let me ask you, Red, though, when it comes down to it, we've kind of been talking about this. Now you have Fallout 4 comes out, and they have their update. And you had Sea of Thieves goes out, and it's on PlayStation 5 now. And Digital Foundry is saying that Fallout 4, and me and Worry were talking about this behind the scenes when the update came out. Fallout 4 is looking good on, looking better on PlayStation 5, performing better. And then Sea of Thieves is performing better and getting ridiculous reviews. My question here at the end of the day is that's everything we said tonight. I can get behind. This one here is the one that drives me nuts. Maybe it's because, like Mag was saying, we're Italian. Like when you're putting out your best product, like okay, you want to go sell it on PlayStation, sell it on PlayStation. That's fine. But shouldn't the Xbox Series X version of Fallout 4 with the update and Sea of Thieves should always trump the PS5 version, shouldn't it?
Or at least equal the PS5.
At least equal it. Kami, great point.
I want to be honest, though, when it comes to Bethesda in particular, I don't think they're that great in terms of optimization. They literally, if I remember correctly, for the PC version, people are like angry. Like a lot of PC players are angry because like they messed up mods and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's really bad on PC, dude.
Yeah, so it's like Bethesda is known, like notorious for like just not optimizing correctly. It's like you see with Starfield. It's like they didn't like the game should have been delayed till May and all that stuff. So it's like I'm not surprised about like let's say Fallout when it comes to Sea of Thieves. I don't know. From what I heard Digital Foundry say, right, that they worked on it later, so they had better models and stuff like that, shadows, right? So at the end of the day, like I don't know, it's like I guess hardware is like in terms of optimization might be better on PlayStation, but I can't really say. That's up to Digital Foundry, and that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. I don't really got like much to say when it comes to like the definitive version of like a console version of their games. Listen, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we used to say this a lot during the Xbox One era. I'll say the same thing here. Do I think that the majority of casuals that play their video games and enjoy their video games after a long, hard day work watch Digital Foundry's analysis? No. But since everybody watching this show and then people on the panel, I know all you guys have your ear to the ground. Wilmy, when you hear that, I mean, listen, just as a product, right? Like, if you're Xbox and that's your owned IP at this point, Wilmy, why would you have an inferior product on your home console? Again, fine, sell them over there. We already did that.
Well, you got to remember, Mooch, that game was long predated before Xbox bought them.
Xbox One, right?
Oh, and maybe even farther back than that. But the thing is, they probably didn't want to spend the extra money. They've worked on it for years and they just ported it over. Why they didn't do it for the Xbox, I have no clue, because I'm going to tell you, dude, it is terrible on PC. It is beyond terrible on PC.
Well, no, I'm talking about
as far as Sea of Thieves, I can't believe people play that shit on purpose to begin with.
Yeah, Mooch, I was going to say too, like, isn't like some of the stuff like on the PS5 version better than the PC version? Because I don't even think they updated the PC version of the game either.
They didn't on my end, I can tell you that. And I'm running a 4090.
I know
it's terrible.
I know they made PC improvements. What those improvements were, Kami, you probably Kami.
I heard it wasn't even that big of an update on PC.
Not big.
We're talking Fallout 4, right?
Yeah.
I heard it barely did anything. All it did is break mods.
Yeah, it broke mods. I don't know about the frame rate. I forgot what they said about that. If that did anything,
I don't think it really changed much, to be honest.
Worry,
because I mean,
know
PC can already run it at 60 plus FPS. So that was probably like the big selling point of this.
It's still kind of sticky in spots, but it's Bethesda. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like I know like some people like Bethesda, and like I always give preference in saying like I used to like Bethesda. I don't anymore since like I like Oblivion and Morrowind. Skyrim just became more casualized. And then you kind of see like the formula. And a formula is not bad, but it gets to the point where it's like the MCU formula, for instance. Like everybody has a formula, and once it gets tired, it's like everybody's like, well, what are you guys going to do differently? It's like, and like overpromising as a studio. They always overpromise, and there's always backtracking. And then I'm just like, and then you just see Todd's interviews and stuff like that. I didn't really also care for some of the statements he said about like New Vegas, because they had like nothing to do with it and stuff like that. Just gave the engine to Obsidian, and there's literally documentaries you can see that he even says that, and then they're like super proud, but because you could tell throughout all those years that they like Bethesda didn't want to give credit to Obsidian and stuff like that, and then now they're like, oh, we published it, we love it. It's like I know they're saying that now because Obsidian and Bethesda are owned together by Microsoft, so they have to say that now. But it's like I want to say like huge thing, because I know there was an interview especially with Todd, and I'm just like, of course he kind of hints about Fallout 3 remaster. That's probably leak court the leak court documents that talked about it and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'll be honest, like with Elder Scrolls coming out, which will be for a while, and then also Fallout 5, I rather have like an in between, like Fallout like New Vegas Part 2 or even a Fallout 5 from Obsidian, because that long wait time is going to be long.
So that's funny. That's my next topic I was going to bring up for you guys is, so now they're talking about, Fallout 5 would, if you followed natural progression, and I think this was even guesstimated by Bethesda, that they said that that'll be coming out after Elder Scrolls 6. So now this is rumor, it's discussion that's supposedly going on behind the scenes, is that maybe they're going to give Fallout 5 to somebody else. I wouldn't mind Obsidian or In Exile, one of the two.
Exactly.
But I mean, at the same time, I bet you they're not going to have. The only reason I say Obsidian wouldn't in this case is just because it still feels like what Red was just saying. I still think there's bad blood there, right? I mean, I know there isn't, but it feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're pissed off. They're pissed. I mean, if you look at just the perk system in New Vegas, I mean, it's night and day difference between what you got in previous Fallouts.
Worry, like you can tell Fallout 3, right? Like everyone loved it because it was a 3D Fallout game.
It was the first,
but people complained that hardcore fans were just like, the writing was very black and white, whereas Fallout 1 and 2's writing was like morally gray characters and stuff like that, and like more dark and stuff. And whereas like New Vegas brought that back with like philosophies with Legion and the NCR. A little more like
things really would be in that situation.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, and also like they had these cool villains back then too. It's like Frank in Fallout 2 and the Master in Fallout 1. And where it's like Fallout 3 and 4, it's like, for me, I was just like, the story of Fallout 3, you're a vault dweller, your dad leaves, you follow your dad, right? Then Fallout 4, your kid goes missing because cryostasis, go try to find your kid. Very like similar story beats and stuff like that, you could tell. Whereas like Fallout New Vegas was premise is you get shot in the head twice as a courier, and then you got to figure out why, right?
Right.
And that was like just way better, and that's why
imagine how it must feel to have the best Fallout game be from Obsidian instead of Bethesda. I know Bethesda didn't create it, but you could argue that Fallout New Vegas is better than any of the Bethesda Fallout games.
There's no argument at all about it.
Yeah, I actually think it is.
It's a fact.
So
and there was crunch. Like a lot of people don't realize about Obsidian. It's like they get crunched like crazy. Like their deadlines happen with KOTOR 2 and also happen with Fallout New Vegas. And they wanted to put more stuff into Fallout New Vegas as well as KOTOR 2. It's like they get the engine and then they're expected to have like this deadline done like super fast, which sucks.
I mean, I would love Fallout New Vegas 2. I would love it if they would maybe outsource Fallout to a different studio. I just don't know who they could really give it to. I mean, Obsidian has Avowed, and then they have Outer Worlds 2 after that. So, that's probably a good 4 or 5 years at least. In Exile has Clockwork Revolution. I think that's them, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe after that they could do like a new Fallout game outsourced, but I don't know. I just don't see how we can get one in the next few years. Maybe even not this generation.
And Clockwork Revolution looks interesting.
Oh yeah, that one definitely looks interesting. I'm excited to see more of that at the showcase.
I know, like, the studio head for Obsidian, I always like butcher his name, Fargus. Like said it, like he expresses like a lot of times of going back to Fallout before retiring, and that was like in 2023 the last time he said it. So Obsidian is down to make it. It's up to, I don't know. Technically, you could say Bethesda, but Xbox really has the last say in it, and where they could just be like, "Listen, we want you to make Fallout."
Yeah, I mean, I think Bethesda making Fallout is probably. Listen, in Red, I heard your comments, and I think they're warranted with how you've kind of fallen a little bit out of love with Bethesda. But I think if they hand it off, maybe it'll be a great game. Fallout 5 might be wonderful if they handed it off to another dev team. But I think a lot of people listen. This is what Bethesda fans say. Although people say one thing and they have short-term memory, then the next day they forget. They love. I love Bethesda. I love the bugs. That's the Bethesda charm. Right? So, well, if you love Bethesda and you love the bugs and you love everything they give you in it, then if another team does Fallout 5 and it doesn't have those bugs and that Bethesda charm, will you love Fallout 5? I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I
would.
I can handle walking into a building without running into a tree limb.
Right?
Yeah, I can handle a game without any bugs.
Oh, God. It's hysterical. Oh, my God. Some people...
I get what you're saying, though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It cracks me up. Shout out to the great Blaze 4K. The super chat's working. It's a miracle. Thank you, Blaze. I appreciate that. Shout out to the great RPG Gaming as well for the 5 gifted subs out there. I appreciate that as well. It's funny because a lot of people still harping on the what Wilmy's comment was. It's just funny to me how, like, everybody else who has a show can talk about the news and whatever they want to talk about, and they can have one type of show and make fun of PlayStation and make fun of this, make fun of that. But you can't do it. We can't talk about the news here. We're not allowed to talk about the news. It's the weekly news, guys. If you don't like it, it's right there in the title. It's right there in the title. And that's what happened this week. Last week was Stellar Blade, things like that. There's like 2 or 3 guys here. And plus, they were big Xbox fans. Now they're PC. All right. I don't know. It cracks me up. It is the funniest thing. It is the funniest thing. I truly love the guys.
See, then you got some of us that play everything and just try to give you a hard time.
But these guys have been in my chat for 3 years, Will, me talking about Xbox. Now today they're not Xbox anymore.
Now they're PC fans.
Now they're not
PC gamers.
They're like, Mooch, what are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I talking about?
PC guys.
Yeah, you got a couple of PC guys. Listen, everybody. By the way, pretty much except for Worry. I think I can't speak for David. I think Kami does too. I have a PC that's very capable. Wilmy Hood just told you he's got a 4090. Red's got I don't know what Red's got. Red's computer is so strong.
No, that's the same. It's 7800X 3D.
I got 3 of them
64 gigs of RAM and also a 4090.
Yeah, Red's computer floats. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we all have PCs. Everybody here has consoles. Switches, everything. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, guys, it is what it is. Sorry if you don't like the weekly news, but that's what we always say. Join CrossFire as we talk about all the weekly news and gaming rumors. That's what it is. Oh.
The only thing we don't play in my house is a Switch.
Jeez. Mooch,
I'll leave that for my grandson. He plays it.
I wanted to talk about something that was interesting.
Yeah,
because I'm a big Final Fantasy guy. Big into 16 because I love 14 as well. Can't wait for Dawn Trail, which comes out in June, week after Elden Ring's expansion Shadow of Erdtree. And it's crazy, and it seems like FF7 Rebirth sales are falling behind FF16 in the double digits, percentage wise, right? Which is super crazy because it's everybody was like, oh, 16 super divisive, this, that, and the third, right? And I love both games, by the way. Like, still playing Rebirth and all that. I did beat 16, beat the Leviathan, or Rising Tide DLC expansion. And I was just like, damn, it's like, I'm wondering what's going to happen with the third game for whatever they call it. I know it's going to be an RE for Final Fantasy VII. And well, Reunion, is through Crisis Core. So someone said, I forgot her name, but she does a lot of like translating and stuff like that. But she says like it's probably going to be called Return or something like that. That's like the theory going around. But it's like it seems like that, I don't know, being a trilogy might not have been like the best like financial decision for Square, it feels like to me.
Wait, say that. What was that last part again, Red?
That it feels like being a trilogy for FF7,
yeah,
like might not have been the best financial decision.
I mean, I guess that does hold water, Red. I mean, you're talking about just from a financial standpoint, or you're talking about from someone who loves Final Fantasy and a gamer's perspective of how they broke it up?
I think
it depends. I
think
it
feels like okay, so like not going to spoilers, it's like a pseudo sequel in terms of, I won't give away, but that's basically it. It's like it changes things up and stuff like that. So it's just like, I feel like a lot of the hardcore fans that wanted a pure like one-to-one story in just one game, that's not what you're getting, right? And then it feels like also with it going part action, part turn-based, and that hybrid system, it's like, it's for some people like go full action or just go full turn-based. And that also could be an issue there as well. So it's just like, at this point, I don't know what Square needs to do, because it's like they're having to cut back on a lot of like their AAA like development for games, greenlighting, and certain other games, right? And I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen, if that's going to be cut back for the budget for the next Final Fantasy VII game.
I think so. I mean, listen, nobody truly knows, just speculation here, Red. But I would think that even with the numbers we're hearing in the cutback, we're hearing from Square, I think that you will see, and the reason I think you'll see that third installment with no question is yes, Remake did outstanding, right? Remake, like insane, and let's be honest, even Rebirth did very well. Did it do as well as Remake? No, it didn't.
It didn't. Well, I was saying too, like from the
it'll come out on Rebirth's going to come on PC at some
point.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The thing is, though, they need to. They should not take an Epic exclusive deal, because that hurt them when it came to Remake, right? It's
yes,
like Remake did well. Did terrible on PC because it had that deal, and then they tried to sell it for $50 on Steam.
Yeah,
and it didn't do anything, because like at that point the hype is over. And nobody wants to pay for a game that's $50 after all those like years, right? So I'm just like, and the thing is, people say, well, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't sell that well because of the install base compared to Remake. And then it's like, but then what about 16? Because 16 has a smaller install base when it came out compared to Rebirth, right? So 16's tracking ahead in sales and all that, and that's just like
by double-digit percentage, which is crazy to me.
So it just seems like, I don't know, maybe it's because of the story, and maybe because it's in 3 parts. That's why.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Kami, go ahead.
I get what you're saying. From a gamer's perspective, I am kind of glad that they split it up. I can definitely see some of the critiques, like you're not getting that nice storyline all in one game. Sometimes it can feel a little bit drawn out. There's some pacing issues, but I'm glad that they're splitting it up into a trilogy, because I feel like they can go way more in depth,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely...
I don't really know what they can do from a financial perspective. You can say that Rebirth sold less than Remake, but Remake also came out, later on in the PS4's life cycle.
At the pandemic, where everyone
and the pandemic as well. So I think selling less than FF16 is interesting, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the metrics of where it's selling less than FF16 is also quite interesting.
I think the
I'm just
massive
trying to
downturn
think,
in
like-
Japan itself.
Yeah, because also,
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot about that because 16 like had more sales in Japan. Like, was it 300 something thousand? Like, and then like Rebirth was like 200 something thousand. So like, I was just like shocked by that too. So it was like, I don't know. I feel like there's a disconnect somewhere, but I don't
I
know
see.
where I could like specifically say. I think it's just because some people think the story is divisive or it's split into 3 parts. That's the only thing I can think of.
I think it will also continue to sell decently as time goes on, as more people pick up the console, et cetera, et cetera. You'll also
For
see
sure.
numbers pick up when it goes to PC. So I mean, there's a lot of different avenues. I've heard the sentiment you're speaking of, but the only thing I'll say is the people I've talked to, which again, it's a small census, so this doesn't hold water on the grand scheme of things. But I do believe ultimately the majority, I would say, are enjoying the fact that it was broken up the way it was.
Mhm.
Not saying
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I like the game,
Yeah.
but I'm also saying
No,
like,
I hear you.
there's a
I
group
hear
of
you.
people that also think the story is divisive. Like, I like it, but I can understand from a purist standpoint, like, that want it because it is a pseudo sequel. Like, people that played it, like, I would have, like, Tommy, you probably
Yeah.
played it.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
is a pseudo sequel. Like, it's like I can't go into it without saying, but is a pseudo sequel like to the OG FF7. So
100%.
some people don't
Right.
like that aspect of it.
I can see the purist aspect for sure.
Yeah, I might go out on a limb here and say something quite controversial. I really don't like how the characters are portrayed in Final Fantasy VII Remake and
Ooh.
Rebirth. It drives me nuts because it's not even close to what we got with the original. But, fair enough, they want to modernize it and bring it up to, I don't know, something that's in the eyes of the creators, taking their perspective of it. But the best example I can give top of mind is I really don't like Barrett in this remake and Rebirth. He's
Really?
just lost so much of his powerful edge that was so prevalent in the original, and it just at times it's almost like he's the comic relief, and I really detest how that they've done that. It makes it difficult for me to play it. I haven't finished it yet, and that's more for time constraints than the game itself. But there are times in that game where the things he says, the mannerisms he has, I just look at it and go, this is an abomination compared to what he was in the original. But, the remakes take a huge amount of imagination out of it. When you start voicing characters and giving them a personality in a video game, and the originals were all, read what's on the screen, and you got to use your imagination to give them a voice and give them their personality and all the rest of it, it just strips so much of that magic out of it. And it probably alludes to a conversation I was having with others recently. The magic in games seems to have dried up completely with a lot of modern day bits and pieces that come out, and it's telling in the sales, unfortunately. So
I was gonna, the one thing I was gonna say that you mentioned earlier, David, and you just mentioned it again about time constraint, and it was a topic to this week in the news as well. Was that games being 50 to 75 hours? Right? Yeah, Wilmy. I mean, I hear Wilmy. That's the stain there, and I get it. Like when people say, "Hey, a game's coming out and it's going to be between 20 to 30 hours," I kind of rejoice. I think that's that's the one thing I like to try to go for the platinum. And I know if Mag was here, he goes for the platinum 9 out of 10 times. But like when it comes to like even Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy Remake, and Final Fantasy Rebirth. Final Fantasy 16 and Remake, I completed, but I did not platinum them, and I'm not going to platinum Rebirth. I'm almost on Rebirth, but I'm not going to platinum it. It's so time consuming.
Oh yeah, like look at it this year, right? Like if you're like big into like JRPGs, right? You had Infinite Wealth, then you had Persona 3 Reload, then you had FF7 Rebirth, Rise of the Ronin. So it's like you had like all these games like also back to back. They're also long. So it's like me, I'm still trying to do Rebirth and stuff like that, and I've been super busy and stuff. And Reload on like 80 hours in Reload, and
oh
I'm
my
like,
god,
like, yeah, it's Persona, very long series, like long games, like, and I love them. But it's like, especially when you like get older, it's like
It's impossible.
oh,
It's hard,
it's
man.
hard. It gets harder and harder.
It
Especially
really
when you're like doing other things and stuff, and you're trying to like. It definitely gets harder. Before
Assassin's Creed
like,
ruined it for me.
like listen, like pandemic for me, like I was like, what was that? Like 2020 was 4. That's 20. Well, it's 24, 23, something like that. And oh yeah, I was completing games left and right, like so easily. Now it's just like definitely getting harder.
So, Shot, we got a
Yeah, I'm
couple,
definitely feeling that lately.
couple super chats here. I think there was one that didn't even come through on the other screen yet. But Impatient Fire says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the 4th best-selling game of 2024 in the U.S. Yeah, it's. Listen, that's the thing. It's doing. Babor. It was Babor. Where's the double-digit
really
statement from? Where is it confirmed? Is it confirmed? He's asking Babor. I think he's asking. Was that Red? Are you asking Red Babor? I believe he was asking him about the double
the percentage thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
Say again.
Yeah, I think that just came out today.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah. The other thing to consider with that, well, you know, it's all subjective to time frame as well. So look what was out around at the games that were around when Rebirth has been released, and the timing of Rebirth, like right at the end of February, and what bigger games were around at the time in the market that it's in, or the economic conditions it's in, versus when Final Fantasy 16 came out last year. And what was packed around that? Again, considering that, yes, last year was tough economic conditions. They weren't anywhere near as bad as they are now. But again, you know, people being mindful about their spending. The other thing that gives away whether people perceive value in a game is how long the tail is with the sales. Is it, you know, Final Fantasy 16 did 3 million sales in the first week or something like that?
Yeah, week. And we didn't get any numbers for Rebirth from Square, which is like strange because they normally, if it's like they think super successful, they'll like shout it out to the mountains like they did with Final Fantasy 14 when it came to Endwalker expansion. They talked all about that. And they'll probably talk about Dawn Trail when it comes out June. And they talked about 16, Rebirth. They didn't really say a word.
Yeah, that's right. And so 3 million in the first week for 16, and it was pretty clear of a lot of other stuff. And then Rebirth comes out bang at the end of February, and everybody's still up to their left one playing Helldivers 2.
Infinite Wealth, Helldivers 2.
Infinite Wealth and all those other things. And it Rise of the Ronin's right up next to it, a couple of weeks away from that. And then Stellar Blade's flying out, a month down the track.
Yeah.
Again, this is the problem that Xbox is running up against in a big way in terms of selling games. It's the same issue for anyone else.
It is. It's the same for PlayStation. Yeah.
When the platform options are reduced, then you've got a oversupply, because that's what it is. There's an oversupply of games into the market at the moment. You're looking at it going, right, well, I've got to pick and choose, because there's not more players there picking up games, and players will pick up good games that they're picking and choosing. So there'll be a long tail on it. I expect that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will have a excessively long tail. We'll get down to the point where it will go on sale at 10 or 20% off, and there'll be another jump up in sales then when people circle back around to pick it up. But,
we have so many dead zones, right? And Kami, you cover this, but David just nailed it. We have so many dead zones from sometimes, and I know this time we have Hellblade 2 in May, but generally end of May, then you have June, July, August. There's a lot of time in there to release a blockbuster. You might say, Mooch, come on, there's this game, and this game coming out in the summer. And that's fine. There are games slated to release. But why not release a Rise of the Ronin in middle of June, early July? Why not release it? Why have everything crammed? It seems like between January and April, and then they cram everything between September and November. I don't know why they don't sprinkle it out more. There's just it's fatigue where you're just game after game, and some of them are 30 hours. That's fine. Some of them are calling for 50, 60 hours a rip. Some people just got done playing Baldur's Gate from the end of last year. You know, Brep put in 200. Brep, I don't know if he platinumed it or not, or 100%ed it on PC, but he put 200 hours in on PC, and I think he's got 160 hours on PlayStation. Like, you know, you get fatigued, you get tired, and then you're like, hey, you know what? Let me pick up this game and play 75 hours of this. It's a lot. So why they do these back to back to back? That's something that I just truly constantly question.
It's ridiculous because this time last year, and genuinely, I was looking at it earlier, this time last year, every media outlet and every major influencer and every major podcast was talking about there's a drought. There's a drought. There's no games. Where are the games?
Yeah,
there's no games coming. There's no games coming. But the problem was the caveat wasn't them saying there's no games coming from PlayStation first party or Xbox first party or Nintendo first party. There is a plethora of games that come from all the third-party publishers, and people just can't keep up. And that's where the miscommunication comes through. We got smashed with excellent games last year. People talking about best since 96, 97. And on par. Definitely on par. I still think 97 was better. But this year, look at the start. We're at May, and we've had 5, 6, 7, 8 games that have come through that are absolute must-plays, and I've gotten through 1.5 of them because I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're talking about should we have longer games, shorter games. You used to be able to finish the OG Final Fantasy VII in 40 hours if you went at pace and you knew what you were doing. Second and third playthroughs would be about that. Best game, my best game ever made, Metal Gear Solid. You could do that whole game in 6 hours. If you didn't dawdle around. Linear, yes. Story driven, yes. That game is the template of what PlayStation games are now. But Metal Gear Solid, 6 hours and done, and considered one of the greatest games ever made. But you know, if you've got to be picky and choosy about what games you can and can't fit in and what you want to do. People engage with Fortnite. They might play it for an hour here and an hour there because, it's repetitive, but they enjoy playing it. But it changes up enough that they don't have to sink 60, 70, 80 hours to finish the thing. They just jump in for a couple of hours and enjoy time with their friends.
That's what I was just going to say, David. And I welcome the fact that, I don't know, what did they say? Hellblade is going to be, 10 hours? I don't know, 8, 10, 12?
8 to 10 hours.
I welcome that, Kami. But, Wilmy, I got to get Wilmy in here. Wilmy, you see my gunplay here. The reason... you need some practice, brother. Listen, hey, that's fine. Let's go. I'll be there. I'm starting to sound like Dr. Disrespect. All right, let's go. Let's go right now. No, but I mean, Wilmy, I'll play anytime. I got to say this much, though. The one thing, Wilmy, I can't speak for you. I'll speak for me. With the schedule so compact, I like to get immersed into the game. So when I know on a Saturday morning, and I always shout out, by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Gaming with Persona and a shout out to Jay Bari. I love listening to their show on Saturday morning, and I'll just go do some of the open world stuff in Rebirth, where it's just running around, getting this, that, just finishing some side quests and things like that. And I have time to explore and enjoy, and then I'll listen to some of the story and get into it. But when I don't have a lot of time, but I want a game, you know what I've been picking up? I play a lot of Warzone. I'll play multiplayer, or I play Helldivers 2. And it's because I can jump in and out of matches in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm good. You know what I mean? And it's okay, now I got to put the controller down. I got to go somewhere. I got to go do something. It's but I still get to get my gaming in, And that's the one thing where, as you get older, if you guys are listening in the chat, I know a lot of you guys are some old heads like myself. It's you kind of get to a point where you're I don't have the 100 hours I used to have all the time. So, a lot of times when I hear games are going to be 20, 30 hours, I'm psyched. I'm that's such a sweet spot for games, man. That's fine. 20, 30 hours is an awesome amount. 50 to 70 is a lot. And then when I hear people tell me, Mooch, you would love, I had so many people write me, Mooch, you would absolutely love Baldur's Gate 3. I'm how long does it take to finish? Well, about 100 hours, maybe more. I'm yeah, I can't do that. I can't do it. Now with the other games I want to play. So,
and see, also you get to that point. I'm the layer, man, where they just don't hold my attention that long.
Okay, that's
they
fair. They
really
too.
don't.
That's
After
fair.
about 30 hours, I'm good. I won't go back.
Yeah, I think 20, 25, 30 hours is the sweet spot. Telling me your game is 50, 60, 70 hours long, that's not really a selling point for me. If anything, that makes me a little bit more intimidated to, start it up, because I might be playing something else in my backlog. So
exactly. That's why I play so much Call of Duty, like Mooch said. during the day, if I'm in my home office, I've got it turned on. I can pick up my controller, play a match or two, go back to my computer.
Yeah.
Do more bid because I spend most of my day doing bids.
Yep.
And sending out crews to different places. So I'm doing that, and in between, I can play a couple of matches and jump back over.
That's it, Wilmy. It's like it's time, and like I say, sometimes with some stories, man, they just got, like I said, I really enjoyed Platinum. You guys know me, and I think Wilmy's in the same boat here too. I absolutely love any post-apocalyptic game. I generally do. Like Days Gone, I love Days Gone, but I will say,
me too.
I will say the last there was about they could have ended it about 2 hours earlier. At the end there,
they could have took 12 hours off the end of that game.
Probably 12, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't remember I used to say it more accurately after I got done playing it on the podcast. I was like, man, I don't remember if it was 10 hours they got to cut or whatever, but it was a lot. And I was like, man, this game is still going.
That one twist near what you think is the end.
Yeah, but it's not.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Right. Now I've got to go through all this?
Yeah, I was exactly the same. I'm like, oh no, not more shit to do.
I was like, this is a lot of shit.
I was happy. If you haven't played the game by now, I feel bad for you. But when you find out Homeboy is still alive and your wife, and you're like, oh my God, you're so happy. And you think, okay, it's going to end right here.
Right.
No,
it's not. Not even close, by the way.
No, because it's like another maybe 16, maybe 12 to 16 more hours.
There's at least, I was going to say somewhere between 10 and 12 hours at least after that. At least. And
I was like, Jesus.
I got the plot. And listen, the game is so much fun. If you guys haven't enjoyed it, go play that, man. Not just the story, not just the post-apocalyptic and the zombies. Love that stuff. But the gameplay is fun, man. The hordes that run after you are insane. Like I haven't seen.
And they don't let up either.
No, they don't let up, and it genuinely. I wouldn't use the word frightening as far as horror movie, but it's freaky as hell when they're all running at you like that. I haven't seen a game do that. I guess you could say Left 4 Dead, but this is way more than a Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood or whatever they called the other game that came out afterwards. This was an unbelievable feat what they did.
And they're smart.
They were. They really were.
I got caught up in the hills with a bike with no fuel.
Yep.
And ran into that fucking horde, that monstrous horde up there that just goes up and down the hill and up the road there.
Oh, you hit the actual path.
Yeah, I got caught right in the path of that, and I was like, I got no ammo, I got no escape plan here. I was just like, how the hell am I going to get out of this? And in the middle of the night too. So it sets. And if you got the headphones on and it sets the 3D sound, you can hear the buggers coming up and they're scratching around, and they just pop out of nowhere and scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
and they'll tear you up quick too.
Yeah, especially if there's no gasoline containers, trucks to blow up, anything of that nature, and you had no ammunition, you're screwed. I mean, you're just screwed.
Oh, and you run and you run and you run, and then all of a sudden your stamina runs out, then you're dragging your ass along like fucking.
And if you're hurt, you might as well hang it up and just give up.
That's it.
Yeah, you might.
That's exactly right.
Just call it. No, outstanding show, guys. I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. We are at 9:20 here in New York. Not too bad, guys. Not too bad. I kept these guys from 2 hours from gaming. Another reason, right? Got to get back to gaming. That's why I do the podcast and I go right to gaming. Shout out to all you guys that are here. Guys, please hit the like button. I really appreciate everyone that stopped by. I did see the great Lord Metroid says gameplay is what matters, not the game longevity. Lord Metroid makes a point, and Lord Metroid also being a huge Nintendo Switch fan, there's some very long campaigned Nintendo games that have been out even as of the past 2 or 3 years. And, I can definitely say that the great Lord Metroid is right. But at the same time, boy, I'll tell you, Metroid, that's, sometimes when these games do get to 75 hours, 100 hours, I respect everybody's time.
Rough.
It's tough. It's a real rough road, especially when you got a lot on the schedule.
And Assassin's Creed killed it for me, dude. I've not played another Assassin's Creed since.
Nope, done with Assassin's Creed. I am done with Assassin's Creed.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Won't do it. Even when they tried to go back, and I know the latest installment was much, much shorter. It still was too damn long. Oh my God. I'm just done with Assassin's Creed. But
the thing is, most of the time, it doesn't need to be that long. That's like the big issue with it.
Yeah.
Like you could cut 5-10 hours out of it.
Yeah.
So it's dumb stuff too. It's like escort this person to here. then bring him back. And it's like, really? More fetch quests? Why?
Why? Please,
I mean,
why? We all
and you're
say
the
that.
only person in the video game that can accomplish anything. There's entire villages all around you, but you're the only one in that game that can get anything done.
Yeah.
So,
and you get, games like Uncharted 4, 15 hours.
Perfect.
Yeah.
To go through it. God of War was 20 to 25 plus the additional stuff if you wanted to do it. They're using those as two examples. There's other third-party games which are the same. 15, 20 hours will get you through the main story if you want to do that. I'm a big fan of the Yakuza series, and I'll sink 50, 60, 70 hours into each of those games because there's side stuff that I like doing. Mainline story on those is 25, 30 hours. And that's, that's not at pace. That's taking your time. Games like Zelda Breath of the Wild, that's a 40-hour straight line if you wanted it to be. They don't have to be stupidly long. But, it's for some reason people seem to think that, we've got to make, took them, 7 or 8 years to make Baldur's Gate 3, and yes, it won a heap of awards, but there's no way I wouldn't even consider buying and playing that game because 100 plus hours, I could read 4 books, I could play 5 other games, or 10 other games. It doesn't stack up for me, unfortunately. But there's others that love playing that sort of stuff. So,
it's funny. Shout out to Warwana in the chat. Warwana says, are you guys talking about, side quests as well? I am. I don't want to speak for the rest of the panel. I am attracted to side quests like a moth to the light. So
me too.
Yeah, there's no way I would never just, even when I said I won't 100%, like Rebirth, let me tell you this much. Each of the open areas that I've gone into, I've completed all those areas. That has nothing to do with me trying to go for the platinum. I'm just, if I know there's taskers out there for me to do, I'm doing them. I'm doing them. Same thing goes for Stellar Blade, any game. And that's what takes me so long, even with I can't believe I didn't finish it. The minute I'm done with Stellar Blade, I'm going to go back and finish that game and maybe even stream it. Dead Island 2. I love that game. I really enjoyed it. And I just put it down, started playing another game, and I didn't go back to it. I got pretty damn far. But I do everything in that game. Everything. If there's a blueprint, if there's a weapon I need to make, if there's side quests, forget it. Of course I'm doing those. But I've always thought Dead Island 2 was a good game. I think a lot of people that go and play it are coming around saying, wow, this actually is a very good game. Honestly, Wilmy, I think we talked about this. I actually like Dead Island 2. Not, again, you got to understand the concept here. I liked it better than Dying Light 2.
I don't know, man. I played Dying Light. I played it on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox.
Yep.
I went through it on all 3 platforms, and I still go back to it every once in a while.
But would you? What's your take on Dying Light versus Dead Island?
I don't know.
I would probably go for Dying Light 2 over Dead Island 2.
Interesting. Now,
just because
Dying
of the movement.
Dying Light 2 is amazing. It really is. The problem is it's the parkour. It's just the whole game is so much parkour, and I just preferred the more streamline of Dead Island 2. I think. I mean, they're very similar. I just think that Dying Light 2 really is it's a much more robust game. There's no way around it.
You have to stay moving
all times. And, and until you're
Dead Island 2 is a little more straightforward.
Yes. And I'm playing.
I can definitely see that.
I'm playing through
and a smaller gameplay area too.
I'm playing through Elden Ring right now, and I've made this comment on almost all my streams. Like, Elden Ring is a thing of beauty. It is an absolute masterpiece. But I prefer thus far. I prefer the traditional linear type of Souls a bit more than the open world.
Okay.
But that. I can't even say it's better. I prefer that methodology and strategy of going through that game. Like Dark Souls 3, right? Preferred that than maybe an Elden Ring, but Elden Ring's amazing. There's no way around it. It's just, it's amazing and then amazing, minus 0.2. They're both great. I just think that when it comes down to it, I like that. And I think that's why Dead Island 2 kind of gravitates with me a little bit more than Dying Light. But Dying Light it's a phenomenal, and I have it. Well, same thing. I have it for. I believe I have Dying Light for. I want to say Xbox and PC, and I think I have Dying Light 2 for PC and PlayStation. So, I mean, I have the
matter of
games
fact,
out
the
there.
developers put up a post one day on Twitter talking. They were doing something about the game, announcing something, and I even made the comment on their page under their post. I'm like, I've played this thing on all 3 platforms, and the guy acted like he didn't believe me. So I gave him my gamer tag, and he looked me up on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. He goes, and he DM'd me. He goes, "Oh my God, you weren't kidding, were you?" I was like, "No, I told you I wasn't kidding."
That's awesome.
I said, "I really enjoyed it. I don't know why. I just really got a kick out of it."
He should have sent you one of those awesome, like, Survivor chests that's got all the swag. That would have been great.
That would have been nice, but yeah, he didn't send me anything.
He didn't send me anything. I hear no, Wilmy, believe me, I hear you. No, great talking games with you guys here. I appreciate you guys being here. I will do a shout out too for the guys that had to leave a bit early. I'll go in reverse order here. Red, I know you came in at 8. You came in during some of the great hot takes tonight. And then, I'm still dying to see if you get a Thursday night off. I'll have my people talk to your boss. We have to have something here where you get Thursdays off. I'll work something out for you there, Red. No, nonetheless. Red, thanks for being here tonight, buddy. Like I said, I'll always reach out to you. You not being able to make it because of work, hey, man, listen, life first, family first, work first. That's the way it is. But whenever you can make it, Red, we'd love having you on the show, buddy. Let people know where they can find you, and thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, RedHood240, Twitch, RedHood420, and RGT 5 o'clock on Fridays on Big Cloud's channel.
Yes, shout out to the great Big Cloud, by the way. Go over and check out Big Cloud's channel.
Make sure to sub the Mooch as well.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Red.
Because everyone forgets to like for whatever reason.
Everyone always forgets to like. Guys, hit the like. It's fun to hit a button, isn't it? Or at least YouTube thinks it is. Nonetheless.
Yeah, right now.
Nonetheless, thank you, Kami. I appreciate that. Speaking of that, the great Kami is here with us. Kami, honestly, I got to tell you, boy, you really appeared on one of the best Crossfires. That's a great show you started. One of the great ones to start on for you, Kami. We got to have you back on the show. I know Thursdays are busy for you as well, but I'll space it out. I know that Thursdays don't always work, but outstanding to have you here. Not that anybody needs to know where to follow you, because I think everybody follows you as far as I'm concerned. And if they're not, shame on them. But Kami, thanks for being here tonight, buddy. Outstanding having you on Crossfire. Let people know where they can find you, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. Big fan of the show. You can find me on Twitter at Okami13_ or on YouTube at KingKamiTV. Come on over for gaming news coverage. No nonsense, no clickbait, no console warring, all that.
I like that.
Thanks so much, guys.
I'm going to follow you now, sir.
There you
Appreciate
go.
it, man.
And just like that,
he's good.
Much
he's
love.
Good.
Kami is great. He's absolutely fantastic. Him and the great Zuby Tech, outstanding information in the gaming world. Up to date. They're on top of everything. They've got links. They've got sources. They put everything out there. So Kami, please do what you do. Don't ever stop, please. It's a fresh breath of air for a lot of us. So it's outstanding to have you here with us. The great David
Appreciate
Faulkner.
it,
Absolutely, Kami. The great David Faulkner. David, a lot of us, it's 9:30 over here in New York. But I got to see, David, just in case you guys are wondering, David's about to go have a late lunch. The great down under accountant who is with us tonight, David Faulkner. David, let everybody know where they can find you. And as always, I hope that you or your boss has no idea you were podcasting through this show. Through your work time, pardon me.
But the amount of work output that I've done while being on the show, I don't think he should complain, to be honest. Doing board reports at the moment. So, you can find me on Twitter at Forky87. You find me slumming around on a few different podcasts. If you've got any questions, queries, comments about tonight, I'm happy to talk about it. Hit us up and, we'll sort you out.
Awesome, buddy. Great to have you here. And then last but certainly not least, the great Wilmy Hood. Wilmy, outstanding, always having you on the show. Actually, Wilmy, to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie to you. Probably a couple weeks from now, I'd like to have you back on again.
Anytime, dude. You know how to reach me.
Listen, Wilmy, you are one of... So I hope you notice that I'm always like that too, Wilmy. If there's some reason that I don't ever get back to you on Twitter... Call somebody, because I probably collapse somewhere. I'm going to need some help, because Wilmy, you are outstanding. I write Wilmy. Wilmy's my number one, which, by the way, I hope you plug it. I'm going to let you plug it in a second, because you're going to do it better than I am. But I met Wilmy the first time, of course, through the gaming world that we all talk to each other on Twitter, now known as X. But Wilmy started with an outstanding. He is the horror guru. He knows horror movies back and forth. He knows the good ones, the bad ones. He watches them. He rates them. So whenever I'm in the mood, we were just in the mood last week, and I said, Wilmy, family's in the mood for a horror movie. Give me a couple. Boom. Literally within, I mean, I don't know if it was a minute. Maybe it was under a minute. He comes back on, bang, Mooch, you got to watch this, avoid this one, not good. This is why, blah, blah, blah. So, Wilmy, outstanding. I can't wait. I want you to plug the new show, as well as Gaming Beyond the Box. But I'm very excited for you to get back into horror because I think it's just one of your fortes. But yeah, I got to get you back on the show in a few weeks. I'll reach out to you. We'll talk behind the scenes. But Wilmy, let them know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter or X, whichever one you want to call it. Look for Wilmy Hood number 2 because Elon decided he didn't like my first Wilmy Hood page, so he took me down. But you can also find me on YouTube. Look for Gaming Beyond the Box on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Everything scary. We review it. We talk about it. Everything from movies to TV shows, collectibles, video games. And we actually watch this stuff. And if you could see the room I'm sitting in, it would probably scare you half to death. I have more collectibles in this room than some museums.
It's true.
If you can name it, it's in this room with me.
That's
but none of
awesome.
it talks to me, luckily. And Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, we do Gaming Beyond the Box. And I am one of the very few podcasts, and Connie got my attention earlier when he said no clickbait. I took that one step further. We have 32,000 subscribers, and I demonetized my own channel.
There you go.
We don't do it for money. It's never been about money. We do it because we love video games. We love all video games and all gamers. So you can check us out there on Gaming Beyond the Box on Sunday nights.
That's awesome, man.
It's a great plug, Wilmy. I love it. Love it. Outstanding. Guys, go over and check out Wilmy at Gaming Beyond the Box. Guys, I want to say thank you to everybody that was here. Please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We got at least another half dozen subscribers tonight. I really appreciate that. And I do want to give a shout out real quick to Worry Wart. He was just the last minute. I was talking to him. We were talking some games behind the scenes. I said, you really should join CrossFire. He goes, sure, I'll come on for the first hour. So great to have the great Worry Wart gamer with us. I've been podcasting with Worry for about a decade now. He's taken a hiatus for a while, but I've known Worry for about 10 years. So shout out to him. Shout out to the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. He's doing Solo Dad tonight. He's doing, listen, some of us, we got to do that sometimes. So shout out to the great Brap. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. It's at Brap_podcast. And of course, that's 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Go over and check him out. And of course, middle-aged game guy. You guys know him as The Mag. Me and Mag, just outstanding. He's like a long-lost twin that I found in Canada. The great Mag.
You are verbally twins, trust me.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, we feel the same on a lot of gaming topics. So I really love having the Mag on the show. Even when, throwing a curveball, love it. Love it, love it, love it. So go over and check him out on, I believe he's on, XNC on Monday nights. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern. And I believe that's everybody that was on the show. No, the great Tim Dog who stopped by real quick. I'm looking at my list from Crossfire and my notes here, but the great Tim Dog, you guys know him. Go over and follow him on Twitter. Tim is a truly passionate Xbox gamer, and he speaks from the heart. So I've known Tim, and I've been podcasting with him for literally 10 years. So shout out to the great Tim Dog. I always appreciate when he comes here, and he's always welcome on the show. Great to have the great Tim Dog with us as well. Hopefully we can get him on for the full show in a few weeks out. Nonetheless, that being said, guys, please, again, let's repeat it one more time. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to consider joining the channel, please do. Thanks, and shout out to RPG Gaming for the 5 gifted subs out to everybody today. And also shout out to the great Blaze 4K. I see you out there, Lord Metroid, and all the other guys that did contribute in the super chat. You guys mean the world to me. We'll see you next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And yes, in case you're wondering, twitch.tv, Mooch TV, drop the O's for zeros, M00CHTV. We'll be back on Twitch doing Elden Ring on Monday night with the great Sin Vendetta and the great Blaze 4K. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Go play some games. We'll talk to you next week. Peace out. Good night.